It says it's creating a broadcast. Let's see what happens. And boom goes the dynamite. Connection is excellent. All right, wait. Do we see video yet? I see a black screen. Oh, there's video.
All right, there we go.
Hello, people of the internet, and welcome.
Are we live?
There's I think we're live. There's just nobody in here yet because reasons.
Rude.
Let's see. Okay, so now that I got a stream, I'm gonna go ahead and copy.
What up, Untidy Tech?
Look at that, Untidy Tech first. Untidy Tech, quick, type first, man. First one does it.
The number one.
You're number one. You're number one. All right, so I got the link now, so I'll go put that in the chat. Let's see here. Let's see. Link. Stream. TikTok. Let's talk some tech. Bing. Fries are done. Yeah.
Fries are done.
All right, let's see. We'll see you when we see you, David. The link is above.
10th first. Hello. All
right, so
everyone. Where am I? Yeah.
Everybody's coming in. People are getting notifications. You know what? I didn't put a naughty word this time in the title, so people are actually getting notified.
That's good.
Last time, nobody came in for it was 10 minutes before anybody rolled in. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Well, I mean, we have to do our first the first 2 minutes or something is just hey, did you know strawberry jam is really delicious and I love it with crunchy peanut butter on bagels and stuff. We keep it the Disney style.
I love Apple and I love Google and I love Alphabet and I think it's great that they collect our information to make our lives easier.
Tech is good.
I love YouTube. YouTube is the best platform ever. Why would anybody go anywhere other than YouTube?
This will be interesting because I have my own feelings on some of this, and I feel like you and I might diverge a bit on this a little.
I don't know. I might surprise you, bro.
I think a bit. I'm generally a bit cynical, I suppose is the word for it.
I'm not.
I feel like I think you have a different view on it, having been kind of neck deep in some of this stuff for a while.
Well, hit me with it,
given your background.
I want to go. Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Yeah,
I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, like you said earlier, this could be kind of coming at it from a lot of different angles, but I'm in a we're not too separated in age. I think you're a bit older than me, but not by a whole lot. But I come from the in between, right? I distinctly recall a time before the internet, before smartphones, before all of this interconnectivity and stuff where everybody's plugged in and the reliance that we have on all these tools and stuff. And so I remember, my mom having a Thomas guide under the front passenger seat, big, thick, some of the older folk would know what a Thomas guide is. It's a big, like an atlas.
GPS.
Yeah, it's like an atlas practically it's a thick book of maps.
Remember MapQuest?
Oh yeah.
MapQuest was that first barrier between maps and dude.
My lady still says, we'll MapQuest it. And I'm like, what is this? Is this 1997? You're gonna print it out too? You're gonna print out the directions that tell you how to get out of your neighborhood, and then
Yeah. Let's go watch Family Ties.
Yeah, right.
Family Ties come on tonight.
let me pull out my Rugrats new episodes.
Right.
But I remember, sure, Yahoo Maps was a big deal. MapQuest was the best though, of course, until Google Maps. But
yeah, agreed.
So I feel like we're in too deep, right? It's far too gone. We're all in it now. There's nothing to be done. And so the question of whether or not it's bad almost becomes moot, right? Because it's too late. We should have been talking about this in 1995, and we kind of were. I love the quote from and I'm not going to quote directly. I'm going to paraphrase, but it's from somebody high up at Sun Microsystems. It comes from the early days or early mid 90s. But he basically says privacy on the internet is a joke. It's too late. Even then it was too late. You should not assume any level of privacy or anonymity on the internet. Was the gist of what he said. And it's true. It was true then, it's true now, it's more true now than ever before.
Agreed.
Even back then, what I think it was in the late 90s, the FBI got caught, I suppose. They had a bit of software that they called Predator. And it was literally scraping all of your emails.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember Predator.
And they got caught. They apologized. They renamed it to something nicer, but it still basically does the same thing. And it's still there. It's still active. It still does that. And this was pre 9/11, right? This was before Patriot Act stuff, which really opened things up to the government. Despite what you might think about Apple and their privacy stuff and how they fought against the the feds with that San Diego terrorist guy that didn't want to open the iPhone and stuff like that. And the FBI ended up hiring somebody for like $100,000 to crack the thing and blah blah blah, like whatever. Like
one way or another,
it was a horse and pony show. It was all smoke and mirrors. Apple and Google and stuff will bend the knee, without, and they don't have to say. They don't have to. It doesn't. Your ISP doesn't have to tell you that the cops are asking for your information. Nobody has to tell you that the cops are asking for your information. It happens all the time, and they push back quite a bit. Like Google comes out every once in a while and says like, "Oh yeah, we got 12,000 requests from the DOJ to open up information and stuff, and we denied them." But they will when it's serious, when it's something like.
Oh, if it's a matter of national security, important. All rights go out the window. Like, yeah. Guantanamo Bay becomes jail.
And you can thank the Patriot Act for a lot of that.
Yeah.
They can disappear you for no reason.
We do know that they do a lot of shit though that's off the books. Like and every country does. It's not like we're unique in that.
No.
So it's like the things that you see publicly, like even the betrayals and stuff, it's because they were exposed on some level. If they were exposed, you'd never know about it. It would just be ongoing. Like one of the biggest ones that really got me thinking about this whole topic of our misplaced trust in technology and where it's leading us. And just so you know, I do agree with you mostly. Like there are some things I diverge on a little bit, but I do agree with you mostly that the genie's out of the bottle. Like we've already headed in this direction. We can't cut the cable and stop using power and go back to the Amish life. That's not going to happen. But one of the biggest things that like really started making me think, man, we just implicitly trust technology. Like unless we have a reason not to. Yeah, we automatically just trust it. You open a box, it's got a gadget. It's like, oh, I want to join your network. You're just like, oh, fuck, whatever. You go through the steps, phone, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what's going on in the back 90% of the time. You just trust it. Yeah. You're like, I bought this at a store. There's no way it could be bad. There's no way it could have a bug in it. Like, this is a product that ships and is sold. So it couldn't be. But the funny thing is, it's like, that's always been a problem with products as far as like, you could get a product that could just catch on fire, right? It doesn't, just because it was on the shelf doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily have flaws. But the problem is these flaws are sometimes remotely exploitable. And that's where it starts getting a little bit weird. It's like, it's one thing to be riding down the road on your one wheel going, wee, and then your battery disconnects and you eat shit on the pavement. It's another thing entirely when a dude drives by and hits a button and everybody's one wheel tanks them over on their face. Yeah. So it's like the scope has expanded as far as weaponization of technology. Yes.
Also, though, it's like the concept of, like I try and warn teenagers not to post like, oh hey, I'm with my buddies at the movie theater while they're at the theater, right? You do that just afterwards and stuff like that. And it's one thing to impress a certain level of caution onto the public at large, but at the same time, the odds of really the odds of your fresh bought wireless router that you haven't done any firmware updates, you probably didn't change the default password, whatever, admin password, right? The default admin password, blah, blah, blah. Sure. It does. It's like leaving your front door unlocked. Yeah. But what really are the odds of somebody just walking up to your front door and walking on in? Like, it's very, very slim. It happens. Yes, it is. It happens.
I can prove
in the grand scheme of things,
99.9%.
But really,
yeah, Yeah, no, I'll even give you two examples so that I can cite precedent here. So I have an old router. I have an old Linksys router that's about 10 years old, right? It's never had a firmware update or anything like that. It has a default login and a default password out of the box, right? And when you plug it in, it just automatically comes online and starts working. You don't even have to like open an app or anything. Back then, you just plug it in and it's just like it works, right? And you plug it in the modem, it starts giving IPs to everything. I plugged it in, and by the time that I plugged it in to the modem, to me logging in through the website, the admin account password had already been changed. I factory reset it and I was able to log in. And then when I logged in, it punted me out within about 15 seconds and said that the admin account password had been changed and I had to log in. And I was like, what in the hell is going on here? So I unplug it from the modem and I log into it locally and everything's fine. And then I'm like, I want to do the firmware update. So I connect it back to the modem after messing with it for like 15 minutes. Within another 45 seconds, boom, I'm kicked out of the console, admin password changed again. I'm like, what is going on here? It's because they were port scanning. Thousands of bots are port scanning the internet looking for any router that gives them the response that it's this router in this firmware version. And they immediately use a script to hijack it.
Okay.
Now, the other one is port 139 OOB. Do you remember that one? The out of band. So the port 139 is if you ran Windows XP back in the day, there was an exploit where if you connected to port 139 and send a malformed packet, it would blue screen the box. Basically, just blue screen, just reboot. Control delete, boop, nothing. And there was literally like 10,000 bots at the height of this thing that were hitting every IP address on the internet about every 10 seconds. Okay. And they were sending this out of band packet. And what happened was anybody that installed Windows XP, you couldn't even make it through the install before your computer would get rebooted. So you could never clean install the operating system unless you disconnected it from the internet. You had to install it, then go get a patch on a patched machine, bring it over and patch that box before you plugged it back in the internet. Because the second you plugged in that network cable, the computer just start rebooting.
See, like, I feel like, because like, so
I've make assumptions that like, oh, that's not going to happen.
I've never experienced that same kind of thing. Like I've rocked old Linksys wireless routers and stuff. I got a Google Wi-Fi thing now, and like I feel
sure though. Can you
I've never
sure
been
that they haven't been using your router to send?
I've never been kicked out. Never been kicked out of my admin stuff. I've never, none of that. So it's hard to say. I would say that it's difficult to really kind of get a number on it. Just based on, it's what we have 2 points of data here. Like that's hardly plottable, Well,
no, but here, let me. I also working at Microsoft. I got 15 years of experience in a corporation being exploited, right?
Sure.
Even by the NSA, which is public knowledge. Go look up Eternal Blue, right? That was 11 years. And like 12 vulnerabilities that Microsoft could not identify in 11 years were being used by the NSA to surveil anybody that ran Windows. And those exploits, most of them were good all the way up until the day they were leaked to WikiLeaks, which means some of these exploits were 12 years old and still working to gain root access remotely. And the government was just like, oh, we're not going to tell Microsoft about these. We're going to keep using them. Here's the problem with exploits is you don't really if you're a good hacker, you don't know they're there. And that's where our misplaced trust is. Like your assumption, and it's a good assumption. Like as far as assumptions go, that's like, well, I haven't had my router hijacked. People, my internet connection works, everything's fine, so I haven't been hacked. But a lot of the hacks that they do with these routers, especially like pfSense and stuff like that, the early versions, is they'll come in, they'll root the box, they'll leave the admin account alone, they'll create a shadow session in the background that unless you're a power user, you're never going to know that session exists. And then they're going to use it to relay emails or create a VPN tunnel that they can then host a bot off of. So if it gets banned, they can just roll the VPN. And basically nothing's ever going to expose your computer as a problem unless you look at every packet, which is millions of packets going back and forth.
And a lot of it's just junk.
Right. So one of the biggest botnets in the world is using Internet of Things devices, right?
Oh, no, that's something else entirely.
Well, no, but even routers are a big part of that. Routers are about 5% of that network of Internet of Things devices that are compromised.
That makes sense because you gotta hook up to those cameras and printers and stuff somehow.
Exactly.
So that'd be your first point of attack is the router, and then you sniff at whatever thing you can talk to.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where it's like I want to, I kind of want to show you because you're representative of what the responses I get from most people. When I talk to them, not most people, but most people that are technologically inclined, right?
Sure.
So if you talk to an average person, it'd be like, router, what? Like, oh, that can happen. Like, you understand that can happen, but you personally haven't experienced it. Like, you haven't seen it with your own eyes.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to tell you is like a good hacker, and I've even done this hack myself before, is I can compromise all your systems without you ever knowing I'm there, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what happened to Microsoft.
Sure. Yeah. I wonder, it's like I feel like it's not like yes, it's possible. And from there it's like I don't know, it just seems I'm not
I
sure how
almost
to
want to challenge
articulate
you
it.
and be like, hey, if I can get a piece of data off of your computer that
I
you
think
know
that'd
that
be
I don't
very
know about, and I can show it to you.
I don't want to call out. I don't need my hacked because like I know that I'm half slacker status on this stuff. So
No, me too. I could, to be fair, I
I'd
can't
hate
even
to
defend
put
against
that
this,
out
and I know
there.
what I'm doing.
But
So,
it would be interesting.
yeah,
I would be very interested in some sort of low level penetration test kind of thing because I know my stuff is like I would say representative of the general public's setup.
yeah.
I know I could do better. I have the skill and ability and smarts to have set this up better than I know it is.
Yeah, one of the problems is if is false sense of security. I'd say that's actually the biggest thing in this conversation is we trust technology
Well,
until it proves otherwise, right?
yeah,
It's like
that's true.
you are innocent until proven guilty when you look at a piece of technology.
There's also something to be said about like it's kind of like a twist on security through obscurity, right? Like
Yes.
there's so many people who are in the same sort of pseudo secure bucket that like again, what are the odds of something catastrophic? Like yeah, sure, some of my bandwidth might be going toward helping some botnet out there that is trying to crash, I don't know, nuclear power plant servers or whatever. And it's like I feel like part of it is I think you're part of it's kind of right. Like there's a level of like acceptance. Like as long as it doesn't ruin my experience, doesn't
Right.
keep me from doing the things that I want to do, who cares? Like my bank account stuff isn't getting jacked. Because I have now, I have different layers for more important things. But like, okay, like it's like the ad tracking or
Yeah.
Google tracking stuff or whatever. Like what does it matter really? Like what effect does it have on me to be subjected to targeted advertisement and the I would say vague manipulations that come along with that? Or like what, I mean, who cares? Like what, like it's weird, it seems weird, but where is the trouble? Like where's the problem? I don't subscribe to that. And I get some of it. Some people just want to be private. They just as a matter of principle, they don't want the big them stuff to
Brother.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
They just don't like the idea as a general matter of course, right? Like that's cool, I guess. But like
I get what you're saying.
It's not like I'm being mind controlled, kind of, right? A little bit. That's what I mean, kind of. That's what advertising is for, and
right.
Like that's what it is. It is a subtle and very
AI monitoring what you post and making sure you only see things that post what is a common agreement between the platform and you, like finding common ground and making sure they push heavily into that is a manipulation in itself.
And but that's a funny thing to mention too. Is like so I'll say it outright. Like I'm left leaning, I guess. That's
yeah,
how
I'm
the term
yeah.
The term is used. I don't really
like just left of
understand
center is
some
what I
of that.
consider myself.
I guess like yeah, I agree with some of, but I'm whatever. But interestingly enough, especially on Instagram, I like on your For You or Explore page for Instagram, it's Explore page. I've noticed recently that I do get I'd say more than just a smattering of content that I would say is disagreeable to me. Very, very like hardcore, conservative, right leaning, like not right leaning, but very firmly staunch conservative right stuff that I'm like, this is really weird. I don't buy this at all. Like, why is this even being shown to me?
TikTok does that to me.
But on the that kind of gives me an interesting, like, I appreciate seeing this stuff, whether or not I agree with it.
You know why they show that to you though over the stuff that's agreeable to you?
No.
Because so it's a psychology thing. So because I've even talked about my therapist about this, because I told her, you know, how it affects me to see all the negativity online. And then I start doing the negativity myself, as you can well see. Like I'm not trying to hide it. Like you've seen me at my worst online.
Yeah.
And so negativity breeds negativity. That's just
Sure.
a human nature thing, right? I wouldn't even say human nature. I say animals do it too, right? If dogs are barking and growling at each other, they're going to get nervous and start doing stupid shit, right?
Right.
So the thing is you are 10 times more, 100 times more likely to respond to something that you disagree with that offends you than you are to respond to something that you agree with, because agreeing to something is implied. So like if you see something that's cool and you don't have anything bad to say about it, you're like, I'm cool with it. Like whether I like it or not. If you really like it, you might hit like and leave a comment. But if you don't like it, it's like affront to you and it's causing damage and hurting the people you love, you will engage. That engagement translates to marketability. Your attention is being sold to companies. So the more that they can keep you engaged, if they can keep enough stuff on your screen that instead of you just like liking a couple things and getting off the toilet, you sit there for 3 hours taking a shit, you know, attacking all these people. They can be serving you ads during that time. They can get telemetry. You're going to be more fast and loose with your emotions, which means they can get a better read on your likes and your dislikes and build that dossier on you. And it all comes down to advertisers. Advertisers can literally custom pick. I want a guy between 23 and 25 in the Bible Belt of the United States, heavily staunch conservative, links to this group and this group and this group. I mean, they can really, really granularize it now. And that helps them give better ads that get more click-throughs for companies, which means those companies will pay more for those ads.
Yeah. There's a comment here by Pista Eros. That is kind of that I wanted to touch on. He says basically, quote, not caring about privacy because you have nothing to hide is like not caring about free speech because you have nothing to say.
That's fair.
And that is fair. That's fair. And I want to clarify, it's not that I don't care about privacy in a general sense.
Yeah. You just feel you can't control it, so you're like, go with the flow.
Because like rewind the tape. Okay, rewind the tape. We'll go back to the early days of like the internet and stuff like that. It isn't just internet privacy. This sort of data collection, collation, and predictive models and stuff have been around for a long time. Advertisement is marketing and advertising has that's their whole goal, is to understand you as an individual, but also as groups of people, demographics, things like that, right?
Yep. I'd say it even predates
we've all
computers,
heard,
like even before computers.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look at old advertising books and stuff like this. It's all about it's all it is
oil.
in a sense. So the one of the famous examples is Target. Target's really good at predicting customer behavior. Yeah. And this is technically what I would call like mid-internet, because I think they got in really big trouble about it in the early 2000s. So this would be what I would consider like the heavy rise of the internet. Like we're starting to get into smart devices, and a lot more people are on the internet and stuff at 2002, 2006.
And no regulation. So basically everybody can push the limits as far as they want until somebody forces them to rein it in.
But so solely based on purchases. This is not internet stuff. This isn't tracking you on your advertised watchment or whatever. Like none of this, just based solely on collecting data from purchases. Yep. They got found out. They were sending. You heard the story. They were sending ads, coupons, and stuff to people. One of the big famous stories is that they sent coupons, the advertisements, stuff for baby stuff to like a 16-year-old girl
and get them in trouble. I remember this
with her name on it. Like the mailers had this kid's name on it sent to her house. Her dad freaks out.
That was national news, dude. I do remember that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was big thing about it. So guys, the pregnancy based solely on the fact that she was buying like folic acid and multivitamin pills and like
pregnancy test condoms. There was boys that were like 14 and 15 and stuff that were getting things sent to their house for sales on condoms, and the parents were like, what the hell is going on? And the kid would fess up and be like, I bought condoms because I'm trying to be safe. I don't want you guys to know about it though.
Not even that. It'd be innocuous stuff. It'd be like this gal was buying things that you would otherwise think are just day-to-day stuff. Like she's not
Yeah.
buying baby blankets and bassinets and stuff. She was just buying like vitamins and like some other kind of like lotions and stuff. And they were able to, with an incredibly accurate level of accuracy, that she was likely to be pregnant. And she knew about it and hadn't told her parents, but we're talking like she was only maybe like a month or something. She was very early on in the pregnancy.
Yeah, I remember this one.
So it's not just internet stuff. Like it's there. You've been giving your information to them ever since you punched in your phone number to get your loyalty points at Safeway.
That also wasn't an isolated incident, because I do remember that there was a girl who was getting an abortion and her parents actually caught her and stopped her from doing it because they were able, because they got the mailers or whatever that came in that said that she advertising pregnancy tests to her. And when they confronted her, she was like, I didn't want to tell you guys because I'm getting an abortion. And, and the parents were like super religious. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And they drug her to church or whatever. And then she ended up having to have the baby. And I don't know what happened after that. Like, I don't know. But basically her parents were able to intervene into something that not even a doctor would be able to tell the parents. So
it's like, there's an interesting back and forth going on here. Saying privacy is dead is not entirely true. It's not, since privacy is not a Boolean value. True. It's shades of gray. You can have levels of
everything's a scale.
Yeah. It is a lot harder now than it was before. Some things are impossible, but not entirely. Sure. Yeah. There's no way to be completely anonymous on the internet anymore.
There is one thing I want to qualify though, and that is your privacy. Like when we say that you don't have privacy anymore, you may have privacy right now, but that privacy, even on what you have right now, is subject to go away later. Because everything, that's the thing with data, as long as data is kept and as long as things are kept and there's a trail kept, at some point somebody's going to break the encryption. At some point somebody's going to be able to figure it out or create the machine learning algorithm that puts it together. And so that data can be used against you. Like one really creepy thing that I saw was this was about a month ago. There was a guy who was arrested for shoplifting. He was arrested for shoplifting from a store, and they went and ran his background record, and he didn't have a record. They're like, oh, this is his first time offense, like stealing stuff. Well, they put his name into the system, and it turns up that it popped up that a bunch of he was stealing stuff off of the internet. He was like using fake credit cards and stuff on websites.
Oh, snap.
And they couldn't figure that out beforehand, that it was him. The way that they figured out it was him was by linking multiple data sources together, because he bought stuff from the same store that he stole from in person, but online, like basically, like let's say Target. He went to Target, physically stole some, and then his name wasn't associated with the thefts from the same store, but it was similar items and within the same time period, which they were like, ooh, this is heuristic data or whatever. So then they start, or not heuristic, forensic data, and then they take that and they look at other databases and they're like, oh, what internet provider, what IP ranges were connected when these credit cards were being used? Oh, these IP ranges are from this ISP that's also within the area that this suspect lives in. It starts lining up points, and the more points it lines up, the more data points can be pulled in and linked into the set. It just grows exponentially until you're like, I know exactly when this guy used the credit card, how he got the credit card, and this is stuff he could have done 5 years previously that they never would have caught him on had he not done the one thing that connected it all together by walking to that store and physically stealing something. How weird is that? Like you could, in 10 years, the cops could knock on your door and be like, you know what? You downloaded a movie last night from a torrent. You know, we got you in one of our traps. We got the IP address. We resolved it back through the VPN. We resolved it back through Tor because you hit one of our Tor nodes. Now we got your real IP address. We went back and ran it through the system and found out that 10 years ago, you downloaded 400 movies and you seeded like 1,000 torrents 10 years ago. And we know for a fact it was you because we went to this database and we could figure out that you logged in with this IP address to your bank account. And by you logging into that bank account and us having a log of that, we know that that IP belonged to you at that time. We also have the MAC address from your thing. They can take all this data from all these different data sets where each one isn't personally identifiable, but if you put them all together forensically, it's like it's a fingerprint. It's a digital fingerprint. They got you dead to rights. So shit you did years ago, it could eventually catch up to you. Now the question is, what do you do that puts the spotlight on you that somebody's like, I'm going to take the time and resources to go do that when there's a billion people doing it? Like, just don't be the person that has the spotlight on you. Like, don't do a bunch of stupid crap where they're like, this person commits a crime every other day, so I bet you we find something if we go looking. I
would bet if they had, it was, so you say like, oh, he stole something from a physical store, which then led to all this other stuff. I bet if they had wanted to, if they had any sort of suspicion that it was that person, they wouldn't have even need the physical theft to have tied it to him. They could have, with the amount of data that is available
Yep.
They could, with a reasonable level of accuracy, have just said, we can tell that it's you,
Yep.
buddy, because of all of these data points.
But the
Like,
point is,
there
they
doesn't even
wouldn't
have to be anything. They would, yeah, that's it. There's nothing triggered the suspicion. Like, there was no reason to look at them. But if they did, for whatever reason, for anything, like, oh, this guy just seems like a weird, sketchy dude, let's poke around, and
yeah, data is crazy. Like that's the thing. People
it's crazy.
Think of it like a breadcrumb trail. It's like no individual breadcrumb is really identifiable, but you put them all together, it takes you right to what you're looking for.
And it's not even, man. There's so much that we as people do, that is very unique to ourselves.
Without even knowing it either. That's the thing. Like we have weird things do that
they don't need your cookies. They don't need, like, you can set up all the things in all the right ways, and just your browsing patterns. They don't have to track. It could be anything you touch, anything you interact with that is recorded anywhere paints a picture of who you are.
Like, here's an interesting one. Did you know just the size of your window on your desktop can be a data point that can make you identifiable?
Yep.
Because there's so many horizontal and vertical resolutions that are capable within. Like, if you full screen, everybody has 1080p or 1920, 1080, 1440p. But if you are very particular about the size of your window because you like the ratio of things and you keep that window that size and you're constantly moving it around, well, your window size for your browser is a reported piece of metadata by default that goes to the server. So there have been cases with Silk Road where people that were moving drugs through there, they were able to identify the person and link their crypto wallets that were being used for buying illicit drugs and their address based on all the different IP addresses that came in with that same window size that was very unique and nobody else was using. So they could basically go through and say, even though the IPs are changing, even though he's spoofing this and he's going through this, we know that every single time we see this specific browser window with this specific metadata that all lines up with the specific window size and a couple other characteristics that aren't default, they can create a thumbprint for that and follow it through the system. And then they can start going backwards. They can say, go find all of the instances in the records where the screen is this size and the metadata that was reported to the server. And let's see where they go. Oh, this person also logged into a bank through the same web browser, and here's their username that they logged into the bank with. So now, without those two things being related at all, just the fact that he did it in the same browser, even if he used a VPN, even if he changed Tor, if he changed encryption, none of it matters because they can just go subpoena the bank and go, oh, you guys have a guy connecting with this weird set of metadata that identifies them personally, and they can start building the case and then working from there to get the additional evidence they need to prosecute. And it happens all the time. This is actually a really common practice for like working backwards and getting a conviction on any kind of online crime. The problem is they're not going to do it unless they have that trigger. Like we were talking about earlier, you have to do that one thing that gives them the piece of the puzzle that ties everything to, like a joining table in SQL. You have to do that one thing that joins all the other data that's just isolated by itself. It's just that one thing that ties it all together. And that's why I always laugh when Microsoft's like, oh, we don't collect personally identifiable information. Well, no one piece of data you grab is personally identifiable, but when you link it all together, it absolutely 100% is personally identifiable.
Yeah.
So they're kind of telling the truth, but also lying.
There's plenty of articles and examples of showing where they take a big collection of anonymized data and they're able to figure out who that person is. Because it's patterns. It's all patterns and habits and stuff. We're very habitual, routine-y creatures. We like to do the same things over and over. It's comfortable. It's easy on our brain, right? That's the way it is. So it doesn't. It's like it doesn't really. They're talking about Germany has these new privacy laws in place, and I'm kind of half-ass skimming through what they're talking about with this stuff. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can still figure out it's you. There's so much. It doesn't, unless they are somehow completely just flat out not collecting data of any kind. It doesn't matter. Like, you're only just making it harder a little bit. But the massive amounts of processing power that we have that they have put towards these problems for them is astronomical. You can put up all the roadblocks you want. It's like it's like hacking, right? Like you put up all your firewalls, you can do all the things but eventually, if somebody's determined enough, they're going to get your shit.
Social
and it's the same.
Will go around any security quick as
doesn't
shit.
matter if it's social engineering or what. There's just enough data, no matter what, no matter how much how many roadblocks they put in the way. It doesn't matter. They'll get around it by calling it something else. You are a habitual creature, and the processing power that they have available to them is outrageous, and will find the patterns, and it will identify you and your likes and dislikes, interests and not. It's like you will be found out. Like,
yeah. Hey,
because
they want dude that just joined.
Oh, hey, what's up, man?
Look at that guy.
Quarter? I gotta feed my dog.
You gotta feed your dog?
No, I fed the dog. The dog's been fucking well. The dog has had more attention than my fucking child in the last week. So I think,
processing power is not the hard bit; it's getting the data.
I think you're on the wrong mic, dude.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, yeah. It's like it sounds like you're on like some like little mic somewhere.
Hello, little Mike. My little Mike.
You'll get it. You'll get it, brother.
I'll get it.
Just got pushed.
But that's kind of the point, Jim. Is that the data is always going to be there. They can get it one way or another.
Yeah.
I would go one step further though and say that my fear is not so much about them knowing everything about me. My fear is that they are creating me at this point. Like
in a sense, like how much of you, your self-identity has been. Yeah.
Like, am I the way I am because of the way I am, or because of the stuff that I've been fed from the internet? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that
can control your emotional state. They can give you insomnia. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that the internet can basically manipulate you into benefiting them as a company.
Yeah.
And I kind of like Aux. I love that you
I love it.
I love that you have an alternate point of view on this, that it's like, yeah, they got the data, it's privacy is kind of dead for the most part. It's like, but it is what it is. It's not that bad, because that's what I feel like most people think. Like, I genuinely feel like most people think, even if they don't understand it, they're just like, it's going to happen anyways. Just let it happen. There's not anything you can do about it. And I do understand that like perspective, and that once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. But what I want to do is tell people all of the stuff that they don't know.
Sure.
Like, I want them to really, because I think there's a lot of things that you don't even realize that are going on because people just don't have that technical breadth or depth in how the internet works. Or
what about health insurance? What? They're unscrupulous. They make huge amounts of money. They say to Google, hey, when you look up, I want all the searches for these various things. And then, there's no freaking way we're giving you insurance. Yeah. Or, existing condition or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's so many little things I don't think you'd even think about.
Yeah, it's crazy, because just like actually, Aux, you were just talking about the whole target, like pregnancy test or vitamins or whatever, outing the kid. It's like, if you think about it, it's like insurance companies, and any company can do that same thing with anything. They could look at you and say, you know what? You don't have to go get a physical to get insurance anymore. We're just going to go monitor all the social feeds and every interaction you've ever had over the last 10 years and see what you were complaining about.
Yeah. Your smartwatch, your Apple Care or whatever, Apple Heart stuff.
You're actually going to get screwed. Because I think I'm probably looking up leprosy every so often or stuff. I mean, I look up everything. I think I feel like about it.
They could actually go. So let's build a scenario that's realistic here. Let's say the insurance company is tasked with figuring out what your premium should be, or if they're even going to insure you. Normally, what they do is they send you a questionnaire. You'd fill it out, and if you lie, then they basically just they don't pay out when you.
We all lie. How many drinks did you have this week? I have like maybe one a night.
I don't drink alcohol, but I have NyQuil 15 times a day.
You didn't say how big the drink was.
Exactly. It's one drink a day in a tankard.
Yeah. My goldfish bowl of wine. Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's like back then they would ask you questions, or they'd send you to a doctor to get a physical, and the doctor, whatever he could see in that moment or whatever you were able to present is all he can grab, right? Now you have the ability to go online, and they can pay a third-party company that's one of these data mining companies, and they can say, hey, could you go do background research on this guy? And then they come back and they're like, okay, he talks about his right hand hurting all the time. He says he has tachycardia. Whenever he exercises or whatever on stream, he tends to get tired and perspires too much. Here's his weight every time. We can trend his entire weight over every time he said what his weight was online. We can go through, and they can basically build a thing where they're like, this guy is like 95% at risk for heart disease. His right wrist is most likely shattered. He probably has unknown bone spurs on his spine, given these symptoms. They could drop an entire dossier that's basically like, if we insure this guy, we have to charge exactly this amount because based on all of our statistical knowledge, this is the probabilities of him hitting these points and how much it'll cost us as a company. That amount of data is crazy to be able to figure out stuff like that. And I don't think people realize that it's like, yeah, each company's collecting a little data, but when that data goes together, like when you have companies like Alphabet and stuff like that, giving
aggregate that stuff.
Exactly. As soon as you start aggregating it, it goes from being these like seemingly harmless pizza data into more complete data.
Well, and Google is the oracle now. Like I ask Google things that I would never ask my own doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's like you get access to that information. Now, admittedly, I often go incognito for that. But what does that mean? To me, going incognito for Google is like saying, hey, Google, check this out. This is stuff I don't want you to know.
Here's the thing, though. Incognito
that's only local.
Nothing.
It's only local data.
So incognito does nothing for you if you have another aggregate data source, like Windows telemetry. Like, for instance, if the police wanted to investigate something and they were like, oh, well, we can't figure out because you connected to the site through incognito, they still know your IP address. If you used a VPN and they don't have your actual IP address, they still have some of the metadata that's defaulted by the browser. So if you
your mouse movement, how you use the mouse, how you use the mouse,
all that plays into it. But the thing is, they can even go to Microsoft and say, hey, Microsoft, we need access to your database because of some terrorist, blah, blah. You know, give them whatever spiel they need to so that they don't want to be held accountable.
For the children.
Yeah, children are going to die. Give it to us. So then they go through the Windows error reporting database and they're like, oh, well, we know this person's connecting to this site. We don't know who it is because the incognito, but you know what? Let's go to Windows telemetry and line up the dates and times of every time the web browser was opened and every single time this URL was typed into that browser.
Yeah, because
that's telemetry that's collected by Microsoft. Same thing if you open apps, right? It's like if you have an app, every time you double click on an app in Windows 8, 8.1, 10, and 11, it creates a telemetry that goes to Microsoft that says app was double clicked or enter was pressed to open the app. This is how long the app was open. The window was full screen or this resolution. How often you typed in, not the keys themselves, thank goodness, but how often you typed into the program, how much latency there was between interactions, whether you're clicking with the mouse or keyboard, all that's collected as a giant XML blob every time you open and close an app, even if you open Notepad, even if you open Task Manager. And you can go look at this data yourself. If you enable you have to download, I think it's called the telemetry viewer from the Windows Store, and the default telemetry, even if you disable everything when you're installing, you disable every little piece of telemetry, you're still going to find a ton of telemetry that cannot be disabled that includes data like that. Now, the data itself isn't super identifiable in its individual forms. However, now Microsoft requires you to have a Windows Live account with the Pro SKU. So now if you have a Windows Live account, now you have to log into the Live account, which means they have your IP and they know that whoever the owner of that Live account is the person perpetuating any action after that point because every piece of telemetry is associated with that account. Now, could you lie and just create a fake anonymous email to do that? Sure. But if they're investigating, they could go back through that email associated with that account. And if you did a single Bitcoin transaction, you logged into a single service like Facebook or anything like that, you can
never make a mistake.
You can never make a mistake. One mistake will connect all the data together for like 10 years.
Well, listen, so here's a question. What if, like Father Robert Ballasser is always talking about how he fuzzes his data. So he basically has a system that automatically does random stuff just to make make the data useless to people when they use it.
All you're doing is increasing the difficulty.
That's it. Yeah. No.
But there's still data that they can get out of it.
Yep.
100%. Because the real data, the real patterns of your humanity will stand out from the fuzz. Eventually, you collect enough data, the patterns will reveal themselves, and that's the whole point. Is we're all we
need machines. We need machines to fight the machines that are gathering data.
Here's a good example. Software, right? So you want to protect your intellectual property as a software developer. You have a couple options. One, you can use a highly optimized compiler that basically just compiles the crap out of the code, removes all the names and replaces them with random numbers and stuff. Makes it hard to debug and figure out what a program's doing. But it doesn't make it impossible because at the end of the day, the computer still needs to run the actions that lead to the conclusion.
Still ones and zeros.
It's still ones and zeros at the end of the day. It might make it harder because the variable's not named like counter or percent of health. You know, it might be called P1 or Z3 or $sign or something. It makes it harder, but then people create programs like .Fuscator for .NET. It'll basically go through and rewrite all your code so that it generates basically a bunch of garbage output where you might have 50 loops nested into each other to do what one loop does. And it'll slow your program down a little bit, but it makes it harder for you to track it and step through it and figure out what the hell's going on. But they also have other programs that can demystify code that'll go through, and when it sees stuff like what Obfuscator does, it'll undo it and reconstitute the code. And so there was a tool I used a long time ago. I think it was called ReSharper or something like that could actually take these highly optimized MSIL libraries, which are these intermediate compiled in like Microsoft Assembly. It could take these things and turn them back into human readable C# and even go so far as to add comments explaining like the basic functionality of what was happening. So you can do it's a constant battle between, but as long as the data is there, like AuxxZillary said, the only thing that you can do with obfuscation and fuzzing, well, fuzzing is a form of obfuscation, but the only thing you can do with fuzzing is slow somebody down. You're basically like going to a crime scene and putting your hands on everything. So there's 1,000 thumbprints, but the thumbprint that still matters is still there. They just have to search longer to find it.
But if they have and the only time they're going to do that is if they have the urgency to do it. Like You've got to be a reason why I guess his advantage there is that you go, I make it difficult, so their data is useless. So there's a billion other people they can choose from.
Exactly.
So they don't choose me.
Yeah, and the fear that I have is today you have to arouse suspicion for somebody to even care. Like the police department isn't going to go waste, $10,000 in resources to go back and figure out if you downloaded a movie illegally or something like that, because the amount of resources they're putting out versus the return, it's not worth it. They'd rather go after like drug dealers or people that are actually selling the copyrighted content, right? They want to go after the dealers. Well, as technology gets faster and computers get faster, and we have quantum computers now that can do parallel operations with qubits, once you get to a certain amount of technical capability, the system itself is going to be able to do that breadth of investigation on everybody simultaneously in real time. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have a system where it basically just creates a huge weighted list of everybody on Earth committed a crime, and we're going to weight them between 1%, they're not that bad, to 100%, they're a murderer rapist. And you're going to be on a sliding scale. And the police department's basically going to be like, depending on how much resources we have today, we're going after these ones.
Well, and what about if you're going to commit a crime?
Yeah, and then they solve all crime, they go after the little guys after that.
They've been doing that as far as crime stuff. They've been kind of doing that sort of stuff for a long time too. Again, this isn't an internet technology thing. We're just at a point now where we're able to more easily process the incredibly massive amounts of data that we've
Well, it's like the medical stuff where they've discovered that the certain heart rates, the AI has pulled out and said you're going to have a heart attack, and and it's right. They have a heart attack or whatever they have. I don't remember exactly what it was. But even the doctors don't know what it is. There are patterns in there that they don't understand.
Well, the thing is, before though, like back to AuxXillary's argument that it's like they've always done this. I just want to be clear here that yes, even though fundamentally, if you look at it at the simplest level, yes, it's like detective goes and gets data, uses forensics to connect it, and then comes to a conclusion. Yes, that process is still followed today, but it's the speed of that process and the sheer amount of data collected that differentiates it. It's like without even trying the amount of data. It's like you trying to put on gloves before you kill somebody so you don't leave fingerprints. But with the internet, it's like every cell that sheds off your body, every directional wind change caused by you shifting your shoulders, the sound that you make that scares the cat out the window, that runs over, that makes the crow go fly in front of a car and get hit and killed. It's like this is a system that has so much data that would never be collected because no rational mind would be like, oh, that dude,
we don't need the rational minds anymore.
Mother's dog died of dog herpes or whatever. Like that has nothing to do with this crime, but the system with so much data can prove that no, it had everything to do with the crime because the person was motivated to get the money because the dog was dying and he really loved that dog so much, but he didn't want anybody to know he loved the dog because he didn't want the dog to get hurt because he's a bad person. It's like you can create these crazy narratives from this amount of data that's collected.
Well, this is why I think it terrifies us. Is because I think we all like to think we have free will, or that we are somehow different or unique in our own way. Right. And yet there are very distinct patterns that we fall into. And I imagine, I mean, again, when they're tracking stuff, even just for purchases and stuff, I had this weird epiphany one day where I was like, why do I have a million fucking robots and CNCs and stuff? Like what I've always loved this kind of stuff. But why now am I so engaged in it? You start going like, well, am I being fed stuff? Am I being fed, a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a lot of all these great free sites that tell me how to make stuff, and then I buy stuff to make this stuff with. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a little of both. I honestly do believe it's a little of both, because
now I'm just wondering, will that change?
Well, it's got to start somewhere, right? And yeah, maybe as far like you start seeing like when you see like little kids on their iPads watching YouTube and stuff all the time. I don't know
what you're talking about. Shut up. I'm a good parent.
It does bring up an interesting question of like, well, okay, how much of their how much of their personality of who they are going to be is being formed and shaped by this.
Yeah.
Because like, the three of us, we come from a time before a lot of this. So like our hobbies and interests and stuff were pretty locked in before but even then we were kind of being manipulated by advertising and our social groups and things like that. And they're being manipulated by their parents and their social groups and their advertising and whatnot. And so like, is it really much different to be manipulated? And I know that word carries kind of a negativity to it, but there's just like the word consequences, there's positive and negative to it.
Yeah.
Like, is it really that different from 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when you were really only exposed to maybe 1,000 people, your high school in your town that you grew up in and that kind of thing. And those people, that handful of people are going to manipulate and form the person that you become. Like, is that really that much different? Now you at least have the option,
the freedom to look for other stuff.
Yeah. To be, there's way more points of view that you can be exposed to now. And yeah, this part of it, you're going to be fed stuff that you want to see, the things that you're going to agree with. Yeah. But like Jerry was mentioning earlier, before you came in, David, like I get a weird sprinkling of like very conservative data content on Instagram that I do not agree with. Like, this is really weird. Yeah, so I'm not in an echo chamber. I'm not in a weird bubble where all I'm seeing is stuff that like, and self-reinforcement. I am being exposed to things that I don't agree with, and it is interesting.
I try to keep it. I'll subscribe to some people who I don't agree with at all, just in the hope of getting some other perspectives.
I think that's part of the algorithm too. Is that like because I've sat and watched some of this stuff that I think is ridiculous, but I've at least watched the whole thing. That's the form of engagement. I may not like it or comment or whatever, but I've consumed the entirety of it. They go, well, he at least liked it enough, or was interested enough to watch the whole thing. So we're going to keep giving him some of it. And
there's another thing you have to take into account though. And that is the thing that's being shown to you isn't being shown to you from the context of, this is something I think he'd want to see whether he disagrees with it or likes it or not. It's the money behind it.
The whole point, the whole point is to keep you
for the company. It all roads lead back to money, right? Like the company, if you're seeing something negative, it's because they want your engagement so that they can further entrap the other side, or they can further charge advertisers to advertise more of that content on their platform. So it's like, but in the end, like you said, you do get exposed in many ways to both sides, but you usually get exposed in a biased way where it's like, this side over here is presented in the worst possible light that the algorithm knows you're going to hate and you're going to engage on. Instead,
let me send you the more extreme stuff. Send you the more extreme stuff, so you'll get outraged and you'll spend. I've said this to Baz.
Have you ever seen neutral stuff? I never see it. I never see neutral stuff ever come up an ad that's like, hey, I'm a neutral channel and I'm going to weigh these options and pros and cons so that you can see how both people look at it. It's always they'll present us that
because they fail because no one wants to watch that.
Exactly.
There's nothing viral about people going like, I understand your opinion.
Yeah, like, I agree with you. Yeah, no, it's like, that's not going to be viral. Exactly. You need people to either be fanatic about it or hate it.
Yeah,
so Will Smith thing is a great example of that, right? The Will Smith divided everybody.
Oh man,
like
oh my god, that was hilarious how different people saw that.
It was so weird
I
to
couldn't
see
get over that.
Yeah, but that's what happens is you have two groups of people that otherwise get along just fine. Like a lot of these people that were on both sides, I couldn't call it. I couldn't call which side they were going to be on.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like these people all completely get along. They're all friends, and then this thing happens, and it just becomes this instantly polarizing thing. And then people changed positions like rapidly. So it was like one day it was like 50-50, then it was like 70-20. It's like 2 days later it started shifting around and like changing organically, but the message and the way that it was like spreading around, you always had two stories. Either Will was strong and protecting his wife and I admire him, or
Chris Rock took that fucking hit.
Yeah, half his eyes and got assaulted on TV.
I'd be crying. I'd be on the ground crying like a little baby.
I'd be like, why did you hit me?
Just like guess I better do my speech now.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow,
it's just crazy how polarizing like something like that was. But here's the thing
Except
that
it's
really
Hollywood.
This really ingrained this into my head about like why what's happening is bad. And in terms of how the internet is manipulating us using data is here you have the Ukraine war, big deal, right? Whole world standing up. We're trying to stop the potential of nuclear war. We don't want any more Ukrainians killed. And people are even polarized on that. There's people that support, these terrible people that support Putin and think, oh yeah, he has every right to go in there, blah, 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 blah. And then you have the overwhelming majority of the world, which is like, screw this guy. We need to put him in his place. We need to stop that. All of that disappeared when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
I know. Literally, how quickly we're distracted.
It took over the entire media news cycle for like 3 days, and I was like struggling to find any new news.
We're discussing a slap on fucking television, and there are people getting murdered by the hundreds. It drives me crazy.
But it goes to show, that it's money driven. It's absolutely money driven because in that case, it's like the Ukrainian storyline is fear, and fear sells, right? People are going to hang on to it. Fear sells. But now you have this other flip side, which is like an unprecedented action. It's like you got a really famous black dude slapping another really famous black dude at an award show that's historically known for not recognizing black dudes. You know what I mean? It's like
at a time when they were really trying to promote the diversity in the industry. I came away from those Oscars feeling like that Hollywood is a bunch of freaking aliens that operate on a whole different.
So weird.
It's weird. It's so weird.
There's all this freaking signaling about how great they are, and all this like freaking standing ovation for getting old and crap. I'm really glad I haven't got an Oscar.
As much as I don't like Jim Carrey because of his like stupid anti-vaxxer stances or whatever, he actually said something that made a lot of sense. The other day in an interview talking about the Will Smith thing, he's like, I don't think that slap from Will was about the joke about Jada. It was about him just being pushed over the edge because of the pressures of Hollywood. And everybody is just sitting on a razor's edge. And it just
is it pressure or is it explode? I felt that there was a sense of this is like a narcissistic kind of thing that somehow this was about him. Like on a night where we're celebrating, the poor guy who came up after to talk about black artists and how they've been downtrodden and all this incredibly important stuff had been completely undermined
100%.
by one man's egotistic.
100%. Look,
and I like Will Smith, right?
I'm totally about the whole protecting your wife's honor and stuff. Like maybe the joke was a low blow. Whatever.
She wants to protect her honor. She gets up and slaps him. Like what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But still, there's a time and a place. Harder. Right, like if he was really that bent out of shape about it, he should have come backstage and then smacked him or whatever. Like confronted him after the fact. You don't. There's a level of
he could have heckled. He could have just said like
just hollering.
Yeah, whatever.
We're like that's fucking low blow, buddy.
Yeah, it just sets a really terrible precedent.
I think 100%. I think 100%. It was a big hey, look at me.
Why is he sitting there? Why is he sitting there after? I was like, why did they escort him out?
So this is how unfair. This is how unfair the law is applied. Okay, this is actually a great example of that because this is like one of the times where the narrative flipped. It's like here you have two black people that the police are terrible brutality against black people, right? And this is the one case where the narrative's actually flipped, and it's because it was two famous black dudes that got into it on stage. LAPD wanted nothing to do with it. Because they
and Chris Rock declined to. I heard Chris declined to press charges.
They didn't talk to him directly after it happened.
The Academy have said no. There was an assault on our property.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem is people. I get you, Ox. Like people have been telling that story, but here's the part that's missing from that story. He went and sat right back down. The police never came over and talked to him or Chris Rock until after his acceptance speech,
which is that's the way it should have been
immediately.
Well, yes.
But even him out to cool down. How did he get on stage?
So I went and looked at
how the hell did he get on stage?
So yeah, right. Security? So I went and looked at the law because somebody challenged me on Twitter, and there were actually there were some right points that they had that I got wrong, but I wanted to know, right? So I went and looked at the law for two places: Ohio, where the person that was contesting it lived, and California, LA, or Orange County or whatever, to see what their laws are on battery. Okay, this wasn't assault; it's considered battery under the law. So I went and looked at it.
Oh, is that what it is? Battery?
It's battery.
What's the difference?
In this case. So assault is defined like is like a premeditated action. Like you're basically what is it? It's like it doesn't even have to be
So
hands-on.
here's the quote from
me
Cornell. Assault
give it.
refers to the wrong act of causing someone to reasonably fear imminent harm.
Yeah, it doesn't actually have to be contact.
Battery refers to the actual wrong act of physically harming someone.
Yeah. Okay. So you can technically assault somebody, like for instance, if you got in their face and started screaming at them and forced them to in fear back up or piss down their leg, that's assault. But battery is where you go hands on.
Actual hitting. Yeah.
Right. So
that's why you'll get assault and battery. I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Yep. Right. So this was considered battery because he didn't give any kind of warning. There was no escalation path. He just walked up and just cold cocked him. So this would classify as battery. So here's the thing: under LA law, and this is where people contested. They're like, "Oh yeah, Chris Rock said he wasn't going to press charges or whatever, so there's nothing they could do." That's absolutely wrong. The law in LA says that if police witness a crime, if they witness battery,
they have to act.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing: they can choose. They can choose they can choose their own adventure. But here's what they're supposed to do, and I'll tell you why. Because and people are like, no, that's only for domestic situations. No, it does not classify that in the law, and I'll explain why. So if you assault somebody and the police see it, like you walk up and smack, say you're a mobster, right? You walk up and smack a guy, and he can't smack you back because you'll have him killed, right? He can't retaliate. Like you can beat the crap out of that guy in front of a cop and he cannot retaliate. So what the cops are supposed to do in that situation is without knowing that, they're supposed to take you into custody. You're not arrested. You're just being detained. And they're supposed to question you and question the other person. If the other person fears or of a lower stature, or like say it's your boss who is in the crime, or somebody who's above you, or somebody who's in a position to retaliate against you, the police are supposed to say, if you don't file a report, we're going to file a report on your behalf. And the police and the state prosecutor is supposed to get involved and say, we witnessed battery towards a person and we have a reasonable suspicion that they will not press charges out of fear of retaliation. Will Smith is way more powerful, and I mean, he's big time Scientologist. He doesn't claim that, but he owns a Scientology school. He's donated to
then I'm out.
Big Scientologist. He's a huge. Him and his wife own a school that basically teaches only Scientology. All the teachers there have to go to the Celebrity Center and take so many courses up to a certain OT level, and so really, really bad stuff.
Aliens. I told you they were aliens. They sound like aliens.
So here's the thing, though: Chris Rock does not have the connections that Will Smith does in Hollywood. Period. Sure. They're not even on the same level. Even though we love Chris Rock,
he doesn't bring billions and billions of dollars in film money in.
So when Will Smith slapped him, it was on the same level as domestic violence, where a husband might smack his wife and be like, "You better not tell the cops, or you're going to get a real good beating. You better not press charges. You're going to get a real good beating." There's intimidation there. So what happens in those cases is if you show up and the woman's got a black eye and he's like, "Oh yeah, I punched her, but she had it coming." And he's, "Oh, he didn't hurt me. I'm fine." But it's out of fear. They're doing that out of fear, and then the police can't press charges, but they can. That's why they changed the law to include the police's witnessing it. If the
that's like that zero tolerance thing, where if there's a domestic, they have to
exactly. In this, even though it doesn't fall under domestic, the law doesn't specifically say for domestic. The law specifically says if the victim is in any position to be retaliated against that would force them to not press charges, it's the police's job to press charges on their behalf. And here's the thing that didn't happen. Right after the event, they should have detained him. The police should have walked on stage or at least over to his chair and detained Will Smith and took him off to the side and started questioning him about what just happened. Chris Rock, he should have been questioned immediately after he came off of stage. That didn't happen. All of the questioning happened after Will already accepted his award and gave his 6-minute speech. Apparently, half of them said, "Will, you got to leave," and he was like, "No, I'm not leaving." The other half was like, "He doesn't have to leave." There was so much confusion over everything, but the police basically were like, "We're not going to get involved because we consider this like a private dispute or a private matter." But that's not how it works. They're literally treating it that way.
Unless you've got tons and tons of money. It's always comes down to just how much money you got.
If the person that slapped Chris Rock was somebody that didn't have the clout that he did in Hollywood, let's say it was a stagehand or somebody walked out,
or a seat filler gets up and slaps him,
they would have tased him to the ground. They would have handcuffed him. People would have been cheering. They would have been hauling him off stage. Like they wouldn't have cared what his side of the story was.
Yeah.
And so that's why you look at that and you're like, wow, this is like a really bad, standard to set. If you think, because now it's like, what happens if this happens again and somebody goes on TV and slaps somebody and goes, "Oh, why am I being arrested? Why am I having charges?" Like Will Smith didn't have charges. He got to go accept his award. And now people are like,
even just as a personality, that guy is, is so big on selling positive lives. I'm so disappointed because I've watched a lot of his videos
I loved
He's got
Volta for a long
really
time.
good stuff. He's got or he claims to have a very wonderful perspective on stuff. And then there's going to be kids there who are like, yeah, fucking A, that's right. Someone talks about my woman like that, I'm going to beat the crap out of him because that's what you do. It's like, that's not what you do.
Yeah,
it's not what you do. It's what you want to do,
right?
But it's not what.
That's what I mean. It's like it, and that's why it turns into just a big "Hey, look at me" moment. It suddenly turned everything, all the eyes onto him. It was because of like whatever. Okay, maybe joking bad taste, whatever people saying punching down, whatever. Hardly. How many jokes? Like you go back and look at some of the shit Ricky Gervais and stuff has said at the Oscars.
Say horrible stuff.
Like you talk about punching down. It was barely, maybe in poor taste. Barely.
It was a bad joke. It was a bad joke. He laughed at it.
I'm sorry.
Laughed at the joke. He laughed at it and then looked at his wife and went, "Oh crap, I'm screwed."
It's not like she's got cancer. It's not like she's bald because of chemotherapy. And he's saying, "Hey, I can't wait to see G.I. Jane 2." Alopecia is, as far as I am aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not debilitating in any way.
Threatening.
There's a lot of talk
horrible
about
as a woman to have it. I would imagine.
There's a lot of talk about how the self-image, the self-identity, especially with black women.
Talk to makeup. I mean, like whatever. Like she chose to dress like that, and he laughed at it.
Which is a common thing anyway, right? And again, I'm a
Chris
white
Rock
dude, so
I
may be talking outside my place here, but like. I don't understand because I'm not a black woman, but I accept and I see this is a thing that is very personal, very culturally sensitive, very much a self-identity and self-image thing. Black women's hair. You don't just reach out and grab. You're not touching the hair and all this stuff. I also know that the wigs and things is also very much tied into that sort of a thing. And she has come out very publicly about it, saying, "Hey, I've shaved my head ahead of this rather than just letting it fall out." Like,
I didn't know she had alopecia before this. Like, I learned it.
Neither did he.
She talked about it. She'd been out on Instagram and stuff, as she does,
along with her infidelities. Apparently,
oh man, that's a whole nother fucking.
No,
he's got to be feeling so powerless at this point.
Oh
anyways.
man,
I mean,
it's that whole stuff boggles my mind.
Yeah,
but it's not. So I don't know. You start policing comedy, it goes down a weird path. Comedy, in my opinion, is one of those.
Offense is not a reason for you take offense to something that is not a reason for violence.
That's part of it. Like
or to shut someone down.
There's a book that I really like that I need to reread. It's called Stranger in a Strange Land. It's by Robert Heinlein. One of the parts of that book is this guy is raised by Martians. So he doesn't know he's a human, but raised on Mars by Martians, doesn't know human culture and stuff. And one of the weird things that he has trouble like understanding is comedy. Like why what makes something funny? And it eventually like clicks in his brain when he sees like a big bully monkey like push down and take something from a smaller monkey. He just starts cracking up. And the gal that he's with just is like, no, that's not funny. Like that's really mean and horrible. And it takes him a while to kind of collect himself, and they start talking about it later. And he goes, well, look at any of your favorite jokes, the ones that just like hardcore crack you up, belly laugh to the core, funny stuff. It is always something tragic.
That's someone's detriment.
Always.
Yeah. What is comedy? Tragedy plus timing or something?
The difference between comedy and tragedy is comedy happens to somebody else. And that is the truth. Think of the most funniest jokes the funniest happenings. Like there's a reason that physical comedy is the most successful type of comedy because it's funny to watch other people get hurt. And that's tragic to the person getting hurt, but it's funny to you.
Look at the success of the channels on YouTube about that. I mean, that's
that the core of comedy is pointing out the absurdity of tragedy to someone else. And it's so like, all jokes are in poor taste to the poor guy who's getting picked on, to the poor person who's the brunt of the joke. So it's like, it's where do you draw the line?
Filtered the South Park so hard.
The South Park episode about comedy, like it's a slippery slope. If you say this is wrong, then everything is wrong. If you can't make a joke about dead babies, then I can't make jokes about vegans. Like,
yeah, you don't have to like them. You don't have to like the
No.
jokes. They can be
Comedy-
offensive to you, but that is not a shutdown anymore. It
No.
should not be a shutdown.
Like that's the whole point of comedy is to
They gotta
be
teach discourse at school.
tragic and absurd. They
got to teach debate. They got to teach debate in school. We've lost that. We've lost the ability to discuss things without resorting to, name calling and fisticuffs. I mean,
I've
it's
been
just
there.
ridiculous.
I've done it myself. I violate that rule all the time. Like the unwritten rule that you just get pissed off over nothing. Here's the thing, though, is I feel like offense. I feel like offense has gone from like the purpose of it, which is you are truly offended, to giving you a leg up in an argument.
Oh yeah.
That's all.
And
That's all it's used for.
It's a shutdown now.
It's like Will Smith.
I was offended. He offended my wife.
Yeah. He laughed at the joke. He saw his wife frown or whatever, and that's all. Oh, that was the wrong response. I gotta go slap this guy now because I just laughed at the joke.
Outrageous.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about that whole situation that I don't think people are really doing the research on, and that is, in 2016, Chris Rock told a joke about Jada. So this isn't his first joke he's told at the Grammys about Jada. In 2016, he made a joke about her sleeping with her son's best friend behind Will's back and said something along the lines of like her panties see more action or something than some other celebrity. It was so over the top. Will Smith didn't go find him and beat his ass then. He didn't go slap him and beat his ass then.
That we know about,
obviously. But
although he looked so surprised, like he looked like he was ready to give him a hug or something. Like,
it was such a tame joke from the standpoint of Chris Rock's previous jokes, especially in this president, because it's against his wife. It was a joke in 2016 against his wife for cheating on him, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weak sauce as far as
on the plus side. Chris Rock sold out all of his shows. Like,
dude, Chris Rock's getting like $1,000 for $100 ticket.
That's where it feels like it was super staged.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if Will Smith's a pretty buff dude, okay,
I thought
if Will Smith took a swing at me and hit me open hand, sure, he's so whack. You wouldn't be like, fuck me. Like there was no oh. Man, Will Smith smacked the crap out of me. He wasn't touching his face, wasn't nothing. Like then
I didn't even think he hit him at first. I had to see the other angle.
I thought it was fake. Yeah,
I did too. I thought it was fake.
Then either Will Smith pulled his punch, or Chris Rock is a heck of a lot tougher dude than I give him credit for.
I think Chris is pretty tough, man. I feel like he took that hit. I mean, man, you could hear it. It was a loud smack, man. Like it was,
So it's crazy, man. It's
even
crazy.
A light smack. It stings.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be like, man, Will Smith smacked the crap out of me.
I liked Will Smith before this. And then after I went and did some deep research on it, because I was like, I really kept finding more and more and more as I dug through this. It like opened up Pandora's box to like everything building up to this point. I didn't know that Will Smith was a Scientologist. I didn't know his wife was a Scientologist. I didn't know they've taken every course at the Celebrity Center. I didn't know that they've given them millions of dollars. I didn't know that they founded and created their own school that advertises itself as not being Scientology, but teaches only Scientology. Yeah. So these are not good people to begin with. And the other thing that really
they're misguided people, certainly.
Yeah, the other thing that really bothers me is he goes and he slaps Chris Rock. That's why Chris Rock said, dude, that was an easy one. Like that was such a low-hanging fruit joke that he could have done, because the thing people don't realize is they were not in an open relationship. But he's like, oh, but they're in an open relationship. Like when
they are now. She announced that.
No, that she said that they're now in an open relationship. She said they're now going to refer to each other as partners. She. Will has made it abundantly clear in all the interviews that when she cheated with her son's best friend, again, think of like your buddy comes over and sleeps the night and he's in there plowing your mom, right? It's gross. It's just, it's okay. Consensual between adults, knock yourself out. But I'm just saying, how much of a trust violation is that when your husband thinks and he said this, he at that point, he thought they were in a monogamous relationship. He thought that was clear. They had 2 kids together. They've been together forever. And she went and did this. And when he called her out on it and just said, can you at least just admit it was a transgression and you're through it now? And she's like, nah, it wasn't a transgression. I think it was good for our relationship. And Will's just like, fine, whatever. I for some reason, I got to stay with you because of Scientology or whatever. There's something holding him there that he can't get away from. But the fact that she doesn't even think she did anything wrong at all, and people are like defending her publicly, like, oh my God, her honor and you know, weak, vulnerable woman with alopecia, when she literally like screwed her son's friend like a dozen times.
But in a way that doesn't matter. Like, I feel like she's like what she does and what she chooses to do and what he chooses to do when he stays with her, I feel like shouldn't, in a way, almost shouldn't come into play.
If it's consensual between them, I agree. It was not consensual between them. I don't agree.
Yeah,
See,
it
look,
is
I'm not saying
now,
it's the right
whatever.
thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I'm not
that
saying it's
part
the
of
right
it
thing
is
to do.
whatever.
Yeah, like he could have just said, like, okay, that's it, final
like-
straw, I'm
Like
out.
if my
I
friend
mean-
Xander, if Xander, if my son Xander, he was old, like 18 plus or whatever, he's living at home, and his best friend comes over, and well, I'm out like working and doing stuff, he's going and plowing my wife, and I don't know about it, and I have to find out about it from the dude who's plowing my wife, who I invited into my house as my son's friend and fed and took him in,
Or
and
who my wife is sleeping with. Because that's the other thing. It's not just the guy. Like, she's making a choice there, right? I mean, she's,
it's true.
You know,
That's
and chances are, if it's her son's friend, she's making that. But again, like, I mean, I guess
if
good
Will
for
agreed
her.
with
Like,
it,
if
I'm
that's what she
fully on
wants to
board.
do, great.
Like
But
if that was the thing they did, like if that was like their kink or whatever, and it was all consensual and adults, I have no problem with that. I just want to make that clear. Like I totally support people wanting to have like plural marriages or no marriages or just swinging like crazy or whatever, as long as it's consensual. My problem that I had here is that Will thought it was a monogamous relationship.
Seemed to be blindsided.
Will was blindsided by it and made that clear. And Jada just kept ignoring him and saying, "Oh, nah, he knew. It was no big deal. Like he knew. Like if he didn't know, he was going to know anyways." And my parents were like this, and he knows that, so he knew it was going to happen with me. It wasn't a transgression.
I just feel like it's nothing we'll ever understand. Like we're just not there.
No,
Like I feel
true.
like we're having this is all being filtered through some fucking Hollywood bullshit, anyways. So I don't even like.
Well,
I
it's
just feel
direct
like
from their mouths. I mean, it's not with
Is it?
Will
Okay.
has said what he said. She has said what she said,
Right.
unedited, and it is clear that Will, at that point, not today maybe, but at that point, he was in a monogamous relationship and he feels that she betrayed him.
So he's high stress. He's got, if he gets this award, he's worth $1 billion more, whatever. I mean,
Sure.
I guess I don't know. My biggest issue was like, I saw that movie and I was like, why isn't this called like Serena and Venus? Like, why is like they're the ones who did the tennis stuff?
Yeah.
And they're like,
It's named after
which
the
I get.
dad, right?
It was,
But
it
I
was
love the
supposed to be
story.
about him, right? It was supposed to be about their dad.
No, and I get that. I totally get that. But
Yeah.
then it changed my perspective on the movie because I just watched the movie that day because Jane
Oh,
made
snap.
it.
Yeah.
Is it good?
So I just
It's
watched the
Jane
movie and I'm like, wow, that's like, it's a little schmaltzy, but I was really fun, nice movie. I thought he did a great job. He deserved an Oscar. Then I watched the Oscars and I come away from it and I start going like, wait a second. King Richard or whatever. Fuck you, Will. I was like, why should you be the lead? They're the freaking tennis stars, not the dad who's a freaking nut bar who's like, cracking the whip the whole time. Yes,
Did you hear what the dad said? The dad of Serena or
they all signed off on it. Like,
isn't he dead? I thought he was dead.
They were all involved and stuff. Like,
who was it?
Oh, yeah,
the
no,
family said
absolutely.
we don't promote violence. Because Will tried to say, "Oh, I was channeling my character." Like, I
Yes!
think we got. And they're like, the family's like, "No, our dad
No,
would never
his dad
ever
never
support
did that.
violence for anything like that."
Even
No,
in the
don't be
movie.
acting like you were like he was
crazy.
a violent,
But
crazy
in the
person.
movie, he takes the hits. He doesn't give them.
Yeah, I
He
couldn't
stands
believe
up
that
for his daughter
he said
and
that.
takes a hit for it.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just protecting my daughters like he would, and it's like, but you're not.
No, you're not.
You slapped a dude on stage for telling a joke. It's like that. Well, he wasn't
This is not
assaulting
the
you.
same thing.
He wasn't near you. It's like, because the problem is, I feel like that sets a scary precedent where it's like now you're gonna have comedy shows where people are just going in there with brass knuckles and just like beating the crap out of any comedian that says things, even though it's a shock set. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think you might see a
of
few isolated incidents of it. I don't think there's going to be some crazy spike of people rushing the stage to beat up.
And it's all going to be called Will Smiths.
I don't
oh my
think
God,
so.
they went Will Smith on that guy.
Yeah, you'll probably see.
Bill Cosby.
I bet you'll see a few of those incidents happening, but I don't think it's going to change. Not in any big significant way, because there's the separation. It'd be different if I rushed the stage and slapped Chris Rock and got away with it, because I'm just a dude. I'm just a regular person.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got
that
away
might
with it.
inspire other regular people. But it's Will Smith, a mega celebrity, slapping Chris Rock, another mega celebrity, and getting away with it. That's just par for the course. Rich folks getting away with shit all the time.
Yeah,
so
it's just a subtle thing for me. It's like as you say, it's rich people getting away with things. That's one thing that we're just establishing. We're just keeping that a little. We're just confirming that a little more. It's a guy, quote unquote, standing up for his woman, which just, again, I understand the sentiment, but the reality is that if someone was going to slap someone, which they shouldn't, but if someone was going to do it, then she's totally capable of that. He doesn't need to step in for that. She wasn't in danger, you know? So again, it sets this weird sort of patriarchal, toxic masculinity bullshit as well. And my concern is that is that there are young black kids out there who are like, you know, I want to be like Will Smith. I want to be successful. I want to be, you know, no one fucks with Will Smith. See, he says something about my wife, my girl, or something. I'm gonna slap him around or whatever. And I feel like that's a subtle sort of promotion of sentiments and feelings and actions that I feel is incredibly dangerous and incredibly damning. And also there are people on the right who are going to say who are going to be like, you know, see, what did I tell you? There's black men slapping each other on the show, on the first show that is a showpiece for black entertainers to finally get their moment. And what happens? Oh, they start fighting each other. I mean, there's so many different ways this is going to be twisted. You know what I mean?
It already is.
That'd be a shitty. It already is. I don't like that idea.
But again, that's the kind of, I think that's the stuff you open yourself up for when you start just reacting and thinking that the world revolves around you.
This
you know what I mean?
is a good example, though, of the original conversation that we came in here is how the internet affects us and controls us and manipulates us. Because we went from like being team, you know, stop nuclear war, stop Ukraine fighting,
quick
to like literally in like 10 minutes, like hitting F5 and refreshing. Like, what did Will Smith say? Like, oh my God, he slapped another black dude on TV. Oh my God,
it's so weird. It's so weird.
Like, oh
I didn't even know the Oscars were going on until I saw
Jane
Chris
called me
Rock.
up.
I said Chris Rock is trending on Twitter. Like, that's interesting. I haven't heard about Chris Rock in a while. Like, he's a funny dude. I click on that and I go, oh snap, he got slapped by Will Smith. What? Like that? Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
No, I literally got on Twitter and I posted something like about a computer, and somebody replied, "I'm surprised you haven't replied about the Grammys yet. Did you see what happened on the Grammys, dude? You got to turn on the Grammys." And then a person messaged me and they're like, "Here's the unended." Oscars. Thank you. I don't know why I'm picking on the Grammys so much lately, but anyways, the Oscars. It's like a guy from Australia like sent me a link like of his video recording his TV so I could see the uncensored version of it because they were bleeping the F word and everything. And I watched that and I'm like, man, like, is this a bit? Like, I thought it was a bit, but then when Will Smith said drop the F-bomb when he is so anti-cursing, it looked like a bit when it was like clean comedy. You don't have to cuss to make people laugh. Like, you know, at least back in the day. I think now he's made it clear that he's not as the biggest people pleaser in the world as he used to be. And he said that like on his YouTube program. But what really came from this is here you have Will Smith. Not a lot of people are really talking about the transgressions that his wife did. Not a lot of people are talking about, like, you know, bad stuff. Like he's mostly got beyond that. And then this one single action dominated the news cycle for days and days and days. Now everybody knows that they're Scientologists, that they own a Scientology school.
When he saw
the depth of what she did, it's like it shined a huge spotlight on him. So instead of him defending his wife, he basically put her in a meat grinder.
And he saw it. You could see it in his speech, in his acceptance speech. You could see him going, "Oh my God!"
He knew what he did.
Like,
he knew the gravity.
You could like feel the house of cards falling apart around him. I mean, I don't think it will, but it could.
No, it's not gonna like ruin him.
It could ruin him. I mean, I doubt it, but it's possible.
I don't think it will. It might change who works with him in the future, but
I think it ruined the Oscars for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, he left the Academy, but he did that of his own accord.
Man, the Oscars been going downhill for a while. Like to
me, it's like Saturday Night Live. I just want to see them in clips. I don't want to show you a whole show.
Yeah.
Just like I don't want the monologue at the beginning.
I do like.
I just want, you know.
Effect, exactly.
Well, or like or it's like or almost like the Super Bowl, right? Like how many people just watch it just to catch the commercials in the middle? You know,
I just watch the ads. Yeah.
And it feels like that. Like I've discovered some interesting movies and stuff that I hadn't heard of because they won awards and whatnot. But it's like I don't know, man. It's a bunch of rich folk congratulating themselves.
And all this virtue signaling crap about how great they are, and like, you know, look, we gave an award to a guy who can't hear. I mean, like it's just like,
well, because he did a good job.
Did you?
You know,
or did you? He did a fantastic job. He's brilliant. But I'm just curious to know how many other deaf actors and performances they looked at to see that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just the whole classically ableist view of like, you know, look at that, he's a good actor and he can't hear. Yeah, that makes him an even better actor. Right. You know, it's just drives me crazy.
It's really weird.
I hate the Oscars. I've hated the Oscars forever now. I used to watch them. I used to love them. I used to dream of getting Oscars and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, I truly, like, Jane sort of says, like, yeah, but if they gave you one, you'd take it. I was like, I'll take it, but I don't want to be there. That just looks like the dullest party on the. It looks like 4 hours of hell to me.
Ugh.
Like
Yeah.
No desire
what is there an award show that you think would be super cool to go to and win?
I always thought those freaking the Nickelodeon ones looked.
Oh
like
yeah,
fun.
like the Kids' Choice Award or something.
They
I think
slime
that'd be
you
great.
and stuff
yeah,
like that. I would take that as a better.
That'd be cool.
I just feel like I've
I'd
never been a
I'd
big
want to be
believer
involved
in
what I think it's the BAFTAs. BAFTA.
Oh, the
That's more,
BAFTAs, yeah.
I think that's
I've heard of
more
the
video
BAFTAs.
game related. I think.
Yeah. The video.
No,
game
it's the
stuff
British
is cool.
Academy of Film Award. Oh, I didn't realize it's basically the British Oscars, but they seem cooler. I don't know.
I just don't think you should claim anything is the best of anything. Like I don't understand how you can have the best performance, how you can have the best film, how you can have any of these things. I just don't understand. You could say this is our favorite film of the year or whatever, or this is the one that most people agreed on. But the idea that somehow the film is better because it won an Oscar, like whatever. I mean,
right?
That said, I mean, it helps on a business standpoint. I mean, more people know about like Shape of Water because it won a freaking Oscar. Otherwise, it would be a film about a woman sleeping with a fish. I mean, like it's not. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. You know what I'm saying?
The interesting thing that I just took away from this while I went downstairs to take a pee, that's where I have my best thoughts, is we were talking about data aggregation earlier, right? We were talking about how like one piece of data is fairly insignificant, but then you link it to everything else. And it's like, if you think about it, the whole Will Smith thing that happened started with a guy just slapping another guy. Neither one of them were really harmed that bad or anything. It's still bad, but it's like, if you saw somebody slap another dude in the street, it wouldn't even make the news, right? It's because of who they are. But the funny thing is if you aggregate the data over the next 2 days from media outlet going and pulling this up and then linking this to this, it's like now you know every single thing about like
everything you'd ever not want to know.
Yeah, August, a scene or whatever, the affairs, stuff Will Smith said on Deadpool and how he changed the scripts and manipulated the movie while they were shooting to get himself more FaceTime and not wear the mask. I mean, all this stuff that you didn't know about him, that the average, like 99.9% of the people didn't know. Now they know everything because of this aggregation effect. Because the one thing brought attention to it, people started doing research, and then they'd grab item B, and then B would lead to C, and then C would lead to D, and then pretty soon you have an entire dossier that's like a dude slapped a guy is the least of it now.
Well, and someone will be able to aggregate that data and see and put a financial number on it and say this has increased his value or decreased his value or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's going to hurt him that much in the end, though. Like, I don't think so either. I think it was enough of a perfect storm that it was basically two black comedians. They basically forgave each other afterwards, although Chris Rock shouldn't have to forgive nothing.
No,
but in the end, I think what it did is it just, now the Oscars is interesting. Like, I think next year probably 3 times as many people are going to tune into the Oscars, hoping that
kind of
a cat fight or something.
There you go. That's what they should do with the Oscars. They should just make it fight night.
Fight night.
Like just fight each other for the awards.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that.
Celebrity death match. It's like
Robot
Oscar death match. I love it.
Hey, I want to each other with a prop from the movie.
I want to thank some of these super chats because we had some super generous people today. Holy crap. Thank you for the $53.10. He said, how are my 3 favorite Saturday dudes this fine day? I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Who are they?
Pretty good. Yeah, that's a good question. Let's find out. Who should we ask?
Jack Ander, thank you for becoming a channel member. I appreciate that. Spenson, thank you for the $2 super chat. He said, haven't watched you in years. Hope life is good. Well, I'm glad you found me again. And life is interesting. I'm not going to say good, but I'll say life is interesting.
He lives in interesting times.
It's interesting times we live in. Yeah, it's true. Slightly evil, aka Patrick. Ooh, love that name. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, starting to do more outdoor activities. Find when I work outside in the morning, I can concentrate better when it comes to doing work on the computer. No, totally.
Dog walk.
Totally. Best thing that you could do as a software developer when I was at Microsoft is I go outside and I would just walk between the buildings and go for like a 45-minute walk twice a day.
Or have a shower. Best thoughts in the shower.
Oh, shower's a good place to have thoughts.
Yeah, I like the weirdest. It's like I got to figure out a way of writing stuff down in the shower because I'm always like, hey, that's it. I figured this out. Well,
if you have like an Apple Watch or something, you can just dictate to it in the shower.
That's true.
Be like, hey Siri, take note.
I don't have an Apple Watch. My wife has an Apple Watch.
You don't have an Apple Watch?
No, my wife does. I don't have one.
You have an Apple phone though, right?
I have a Galaxy. I have the Galaxy, the Samsung Gear, but it's round and I can put a Stargate face on it.
I'm just kidding. I don't even know why I defend iOS. Like I have an iPhone.
I only wear it at night anyway.
I don't think it's anything special, really.
Nah.
I just wear it to track sleep now. That's all I do.
Man,
put it on at night so I can track it.
I got a smartwatch. It's by Tick. It's a Tick watch. And honestly, it's for notifications. I often have my phone. I have my phone is on.
Do you have it on right now?
But I don't. I didn't plug it back in after PDX land, so it's still up on the.
I don't
I
like
only just pulled it out of my backpack last night, and
I don't like having watches on either. Like I hate the way they.
I
stick to
generally
your-
don't. Yeah, I was still in search for a better band.
I want to get that
watch
ring.
band.
What's that ring thing
Oh, the
you wear?
Aura
The Oura,
ring.
yeah.
That thing
It's
sounds
expensive
cool.
though. Aren't they like 300?
It's like
bucks or
$300
something for a
or
ring.
something.
Are they?
Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean,
it's
it's
pretty
crazy
apparently
that
the
it packs
data's
that much
pretty good, though.
technology. It's
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
good data apparently too.
It's like smart.
Oh, I bet.
Smart ring. What is it called here?
Yeah.
Aura, something like that. O
Is it a mood ring as well? Will it change colors if I get
That'd be
angry?
cool.
Dude, there's
That'd be cool.
multiple.
Oh yeah.
How do you
I'm
spell
sure
it?
there's bunches. I think Aura,
Like
AOURA.
Aura.
Yeah, OURA ring 3. They're on their third model.
That's the big one. That's the fancy pants.
Dude,
guys.
so it's $300 plus you have to pay $7 a month for service to use it. That is what?
I believe, yeah.
So okay, our
I've heard good things. I've heard
excellent
good,
4-star?
but the data collection. Oh no!
Oh, cool.
Okay, so
You're gonna
again,
trust your
yeah.
technology? Ah.
Oh, this is why I'd want it. It has an SPO2 sensor, which the watches don't even have that. So that's
Blood
pretty
What's that?
cool.
What's
no. Apple's newest
Blood
watch
oxygen.
does blood ox now.
Oh, okay.
How
Apple's
does it do
newest
it
watch.
accurately through your wrist, though?
I want that.
I don't know.
I wonder
Probably
how
with
accurate
lasers.
it is.
Magic.
Lasers. It's always lasers. It's some
Because
kind of a
every
laser.
single
Magic.
one-
It's engineering magic. That's
Yeah,
all.
everyone
Don't
I've seen
ask
has to be
questions.
on the tip of your finger for some
Come on.
reason because it has to be like where the blood hits like the highest
I
pressure
like
at the end of the track.
I love the idea of having a blood oxygen thing though, because then I could go like,
Why?
oh, I don't feel well,
Because-
and I can
because
speak.
feeling you don't have enough oxygen, like you guys smokers and stuff. Why do
Yeah,
you
I
need
just
to?
no,
feel
no,
like I-
actually,
Why are you so
but-
concerned?
I need one. I actually have to have one.
Okay.
You probably
so-
do because you get sick, right? So you got to
Yeah,
watch
because
your heart.
what will happen is my blood oxygen will randomly just drop under like
Oof.
86. And the problem is like by the time it drops and you're already feeling dizzy, it's like you have to
Oh,
make
you're
sure that
too
you have
late.
enough wind to get to the
Mm.
oxygen sensor to see if it's vertigo or if you're losing oxygen. And then if you're losing oxygen, then you can start doing like some deep breathing exercises, or
Also
you can get the
COVID.
phone and get ready to call 911.
It's COVID too, right? If you get COVID, it can let you know if it's
Yeah.
if you're struggling with the
Sure.
you know.
So yeah, there
Oh,
there
man,
are people
now I
that
want
need
a
to know
ring.
their oxygen. So
I want a
I'm one
ring
of them.
Oh, wait a second! I got a birthday coming up. I should see if I get
There you
Jane.
go. There you
That
go.
could be it.
Wow, every
How long
one of
does it
these
last
rings
for?
is like $300. Oh wait, no,
I'm
hold on.
worth it. I'm worth it.
There's one ring that's not. Oh, all it is a payment ring. There's a payment ring that just has an RFID in it, so you can like use it for Apple
Eh.
Pay and stuff.
That's
That's
Pass.
it. You're gonna buy something to help you spend money?
Yeah,
That's
I'm gonna
dumb.
pass. That's not a
dumb.
smart ring just because it has a near field communication or
No,
NFC or whatever.
no.
That's
yeah.
not
It's still
smart.
you're still talking to your phone, right?
Wait, so the SPO2 is coming in 2002. Is it out yet?
What is?
I think it's already out. The number 3.
Is it?
Yeah, $300.
I think
Yeah,
I'm
it's right
worth
here
it.
or a store. Let me see if it's up for sale here. Yeah,
I just like
$300.
the idea of having so much data on that. We just talked about the data collection. Now I'm
Yeah,
about to
right.
slap another thing on my little
Yep.
fingers, and I just like the idea of being able to go into the doctor and go like, okay, dude, I'm like, if whatever, like if I'm not sleeping properly at night. Oh, look, it's because I'm struggling to get enough oxygen because I've, whatever the reasons are. I don't know. I mean,
Next,
I'd be
CPAP.
curious to know.
My CPAP will wake me up if it can't force a breath. And I
Oh,
can't,
really?
and I don't breathe. It'll like wake me up, like making noise and doing all kinds of crap. But usually, when I have my SPO2 sensor on my finger when I sleep, I only do it like once or twice a month if I'm having trouble breathing, and it'll show that in concert, like as my CPAP detects that I stop breathing, my oxygen just tanks so fast. So, and then it makes a lot of noise to wake me up because the problem is you die in your sleep. If your oxygen gets too low, then you become unconscious, and if your lungs don't bring in enough oxygen to bring the level back up, you just suffocate to death and die in your sleep.
Well, and heart rate monitors too is just good for for old white guys like us who are gonna end up kicking it with some kind of a heart related thing because we eat too many hamburgers or something.
You know what?
It's like
Talking about this ring does bring us full circle.
It
Back
does,
to
it
the
does.
technology, which is
let's
funny
go back
that
to how technology's bad
let,
for
let-
us.
let me get a
Yeah.
couple more of these super chats, but this is
Yeah, there
a
you go.
conversation
I'm
I
gonna
want to
close
go
the door,
deep into because I've been literally scaring myself thinking of all the things that are probably happening that we have no clue that are happening that are completely plausible. And we'll get into
Sure.
them. Meat Puppet, thank you for the $10 super chat. You are awesome, my friend. He said the other problem you're going to run into is they're going to start using AI more. Oh, absolutely. And by AI, like machine learning.
Yeah, let's make a distinction there. But yeah, machine learning. Like,
Yeah,
and that's dude, that's been a thing since again, in the 90s, before really the internet was happening. They had gobs and gobs of machines trying to do this stuff.
Yeah.
We've only just in the last maybe 10 or 15 years have we gotten to a point where the processing power has gotten to a point where we're able to dig through and find correlations in this data in a timely manner, in a near real time manner. They've been sifting data and using machines and algorithms and stuff to do so forever. It's just now we've gotten to a point where the digitized records, especially in the medical industry, the processing power has caught up to the just tremendous. You guys it would blow your freaking minds to know how much data they've been collecting.
Yes,
not just internet. We're talking forever, especially medical stuff. There's a reason we have these algorithms that can better accurately predict and identify cancer in like children and stuff better than humans do.
Skin cancer too. They got amazing algorithms for that stuff now.
All kinds of
better
stuff.
Than doctors at picking that stuff.
Better, way better. And it's because they've had just trillions and trillions and trillions of pictures and confirmed data. That's a big part of it. You have to build these models on human confirmed data first. They have to know what's good, but from there, once the model is created, it's all over.
Well, remember, it's
ridiculously accurate.
You only have to train it to the point where the accuracy is like 95%, and then once you get over that, you can let the model reiterate and train itself on new data. So you just have to make sure that its first steps
adversarial networks and shit.
If its first steps are bad, then you're going to get a bad neural network that's going to learn based on fake news. but if you train it properly,
garbage in, garbage out. Yeah,
exactly. It's
that's why you have to have. Yeah, that's why you have to have a good initial data set, and it always starts with human confirmed data because we're the best first.
Well, if you think about it, it's no different than humans. Like if you have a baby and you don't train anything, it's only going to know what it instinctively knows how to do. Yeah. Unless you teach it something different, it's gonna figure out how to eat. It's gonna figure out how to poop and sleep and reproduce, and that's about it. There's
a funny story about that. Some French, I want to say it's like somebody like Napoleon in a sense, not him himself, but somebody way back in the day. They orphaned a few children, like children, on an island or something, because the idea was that if left to their own devices, they would develop their own society and stuff and language. And the idea was that the babies would know the language of the gods, right? And it kind of worked. These kids grew up and they had their own tribal thing going on, but nobody could understand what they were saying because they had developed their own language and oops, this could be the language of the god or of of heaven or whatever, but nobody knows because nobody understands what they're saying.
It's there's a really unethical experiment.
I don't know how true that is, but they say it was hundreds of years ago.
Well, I know back in the 40s, I think it was the 40s, they did the experiment where they raised a child and a chimpanzee side by side as brothers. They raised them as brothers and they exposed them to the exact same
as a chimpanzee.
As a chimpanzee, they raised the kid as a chimpanzee and as his brother, and then monitored their neurological progress and their physical skills and everything. And the
man became Tarzan, right?
No, not really. No, it kind of went south. And so the chimpanzee learned a lot faster than the child did until the child got to an age, I think it was of 2 or 3, and then the child started to catch up.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, and the chimpanzee struggled with spoken language, but he was awesome at sign language. And the kid ultimately started signing too because he was only taught what his brother was taught, and it didn't do him any good to talk because signing was more effective to sign. So basically, they ended up with a kid who was neurologically behind. Back then they didn't have an autism diagnosis, but they were basically this kid is very slow, and he eventually did catch up. He grew up, and and he's fairly normal now, but he was so behind his peer groups that they were
and he's so pissed off.
He's got to be I'd be pissed, dude.
What the fuck? You raised me with a chimp?
Yep, and they ruled it unethical, so the experiment has never been done again because they kept him from everybody. He didn't get to be around other children. He only got to be around other chimpanzees, and anything that they taught the chimpanzee, they taught him, but not the other way around. They didn't try to teach the chimpanzee too many human things because they wanted to see how they developed together, being brothers. And they were always told they were brothers. Like the kid was never even made aware that they were a different species. They assumed that they were each other's biological brothers. And so really weird experiment. But they ruled it like completely unethical. And because of the way that they had to rein in, like they used the same discipline models on them, whereas like with the chimpanzee making loud noises and gesturing and posturing. So they were scaring the kid effectively to get him to stop doing stuff, which is something that you wouldn't normally do if you're raising a kid. You wouldn't like scream at him and lunge at him and show your teeth.
You don't?
Right?
Damn it. Oh, got that wrong too.
unless you're Homer Simpson, right? But it's just like, these experiments yield, pretty striking data that's like outside of your instinct, outside of the genetic, the genetic, what do they call it? Like your genetic memory, which is like your instincts, how to breathe, how to eat, how to take a poop, how to protect yourself, self-preservation, stuff like that. Those are things that are baked into a certain degree. Everything else has to be a learned behavior. It's like spoken language, learned behavior, able to read, written language, communicating, working in a group cohesively with a leader. That's something that humans have a tendency to do, that animals have a tendency to do. Whoever the strongest one is, he can kick the crap out of everybody else. So we allow him to lead us around because none of us can stop him individually. But then it takes a while for people to figure out, wait, we can gang up on him. But then if we gang up on him, who's the leader after that? Because then one of us is going to be the stronger from the group that dethroned him. And then we're back where we started. So it's like, there's all these like weird little things that are learned behaviors. But in our society, we use, things like organized religion and things like that to keep people in tight knit groups so that they can work together cohesively. They can have children and raise children in a protected atmosphere, and that there's resources and things that, pick up where things are falling off instead of just letting them die, which there's that still happens, but there's certain things that we do to make sure that the society grows and we can be in close proximity to each other without everybody just running around and killing each other and stealing each other's stuff. Survival of the fittest, right? We fight that with intellect. And a lot of the stuff that we do now with technology just extends that, right? It's like now we use technology. It's like if somebody was weak and let's say they were born and their legs didn't work or something like that, nature would just take them out because they couldn't afford to, move that person around, or it would make them weak as a group. So they'd leave them to die. But nowadays it's like, well, no, we don't leave them to die. And now their intellect, because of their unique perspective and the way that they learn and the more time that they can dedicate to things that, able-bodied people might not, they end up becoming freaking geniuses like Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, I would argue that the nature I would actually argue that the nature of the disability of being unable to move and thus having to focus on your brain, I would say makes you more human than we are, because
100%.
we spend more time in the animal zone dealing with
for sure
the physicalities of life, whereas like someone like Gimpy G is like a creature of pure thought. Admittedly, obviously, there's physical stuff to deal with, but he's unable to do that stuff himself. So other people have to do it.
He has transcended. He's transcended this physical plane. He is a being of pure thought.
But at a time where he is able to sort of put his lips up to that giant fire hose of information that is the internet, and can consume more of it than we'll ever be able to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is like, you're right. If you're strong, if you're really strong and you're good looking and you have everything because everybody's supporting you because you are that alpha or whatever, you don't have any reason to grow beyond that. Like you're satiated. You have everything you need. It's when you don't have everything you need and that you're at a disadvantage that you have to figure out how to use technology and intellect to work around those things. And that's where you get like you said, like Stephen Hawking. It's like this dude understands the universe on a level that nobody else did. And it's because he literally could spend 24/7 and enjoyed it studying on a level that nobody else could.
And that there was technology that allowed that to happen.
Exactly. Like without the technology, he wouldn't have been able to learn as fast, right?
For how many hundreds of years have there been people who've been unable to communicate, who have it's all going on up there, but they're unable to communicate. And now, thanks to technology, they're with eye gaze or whatever. Like there was a little girl I met at this school for kids with developmental and physical disabilities. I'll pop in there every so often, and there was a little girl there who they only discovered had proper sort of cognitive functioning because they rigged her up to this eye gaze thing, and every time she would choose YouTube over the educational stuff. So she was a rebel in her own mind, because when they came to sit her down to do something at the computer, the first thing she would do is move it over and start playing YouTube. They're like, no, we're not watching play YouTube. We're going to learn how to do this. Like, no, YouTube, thank you. And they're like, oh my God, not only is she her own person, she's her own, little a little rebel.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it's like the best story for technology.
Think about technologies we wouldn't have if it wasn't for disabled people.
Oh, for sure.
Like robotics is so far ahead because of that. Like most of the people that you see, like the reason for creating robotics is for like smart limbs for amputees and robotics to assist people that need assistance. But it's like,
I would say though that's
to create that.
But the military, I mean, I would say that's a big part of that's the military trying to deal with stuff that they want their soldiers to put those legs back on again and wander out again. My concern is that there isn't coverage for people in the general population for this stuff. I don't know what they're supposed to do. I mean, how are you supposed to? You need hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of support to get through a year if you can't move.
Yeah.
So where does that? Who's looking after that for them? You need to be Stephen Hawking for people to give a shit enough to actually want to help that.
The thing that sucks, and it's unfortunately, like, I don't want to call it a necessary evil, but it appears to be in our economy and how it works, is that military technology and military funding is often what kickstarts a technology in the to get to the public.
War is a fantastic innovator.
Exactly. So like if you're a person that needs a robotic arm and you go in, it's like, oh, there's only 10 people that need a robotic arm for every million people or whatever. There's not going to be a huge push to create that technology. However, if you create that technology with DARPA to benefit the military in some way, and then that technology has a secondhand use of helping, people that lose limbs in combat or something like that, then they'll eventually get the arm. They'll eventually get the technology. Now, how much time has to pass and the financials and the insurance BS, that sucks. But ultimately, the person getting the limb at the end, it's like they never would have gotten that limb if it wasn't for the military research and the crazy amount of spending that was put into it.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of technologies like that. It's like when you look at our entire airline industry and, the turbines on jets and the efficiency and everything, that all comes from military technology. It's like the Mercedes military technology is like the Mercedes-Benz to the car industry. Everything in Mercedes-Benz ends up in regular cars 10 years later.
Oh yeah.
Everybody looks at it and goes, oh, that's cool. Headlight steering, heated seats.
GPS
Never happened.
I mean, GPS is military. I just put the GoFundMe for in there as well.
Yeah, technology is a trip though, and we let more of it into our lives like on a daily basis. But going full circle back to the whole technology argument of we implicitly trust technology too much. And where this started in my head was this Lapsus hack. Okay. So the Lapsus hack,
how did they get in? Do we know how they got in?
I'm not sure how they got in, but I know which companies they knocked off that gave them the ability to go after everybody else. So they took an interesting they kind of took the roundabout way to do this, and it makes it really difficult to know what the attack surface is because they basically knocked off a company called, was it okay?
Oh, right, the identification company.
So there's a company that does authentication for wide area networks for large corporations, and it turns out
like Osada or something.
Yeah, something like Oki, and they knocked him over, and then they knocked over another company that also works on software development with a lot of these companies that overlap. And so we'll assume they use social engineering. That's usually that social engineering can get around anything.
Humans are the weak link.
Yeah, humans are the weak link. No matter what, if you have enough time and enough resources and enough balls, you can work around any security mechanism if you just keep trying and you're persistent. So what you have here is they take over a company and gather all this data from them without them even knowing for a long time that they pull this data, and then they sit on that data. And they slowly use that data to log in and compromise and route other networks of these other companies with, again, them not knowing. By the time they come forward with the data that they've harvested, they've already hit hundreds of companies, and those companies don't even know they're hit yet.
Yeah.
And they're not going to know they're hit until they release the data, but they're releasing the data very, very slowly. They've arrested a couple of the teens that they believe that are members of this group. However, it hasn't stopped it, and they're still reporting new hacks.
No, they just came back, didn't they? They have like a huge 70 gigabytes of information from somewhere that they were.
Yeah, and the thing that you can bet on is, in this is where it gets a little bit scary when you think about it, is software is buggy by design. Like, you're not going to create a piece of software because, one, the software has to play with the firmware has to play with the hardware, you have hardware diversity, network diversity. There's so many variables that even if you're the best software developer on planet Earth and you put every single gotcha and safeguard, there's still a weak link somewhere. You just got to find that weak link, right? And the biggest weak link, of course, is social engineering. That's where if you have a flawless piece of software, all you have to do is get a human and use fear, get them into a state of fear where they will work around the rule. And I've done this before with OnStar. I got them to unlock a car that they didn't know was mine. So
because you're
you
screaming
just
at
yell
them.
at them long enough and have a kid crying in the background, and boom, you're in. So
well, kids are a fantastic vector.
Massive. As a matter of fact, every social engineer has a soundboard with a kid crying. Because that activates your empathy. Like, oh, my kid's locked in the car. Oh my God, it's 100 degrees outside. Please unlock the car. And they hear the kid crying, "Mommy, help!" You know, they did the
next
same
time
thing.
I'm negotiating a contract, I'll throw that in the background.
So to give you an idea of how effective social engineering of people is, just for profit, just for scamming and profit. If you go to TikTok when this whole war kicked off, this whole Ukraine war situation kicked off, there was like 1,000 top channels on TikTok that you could go click on. Like literally every single channel that you clicked on, there was the top channel on TikTok, had like 40 to 50, 60,000 live viewers. And they were playing footage of other wars. It wasn't the Ukraine war, because at this point it didn't heat up enough. And they were just like rockets flying and buildings blowing up and stuff, but usually at dusk or night, so you couldn't really tell, what was going on.
Or video game footage.
Or video game footage. They used Arma 3 successfully, and what they did is they went to Fiverr. I tried to figure out how they did it, because they do have a woman with a Ukrainian accent going, "Oh my God, we're gonna die! My daughter, please help! We can't escape. We need money. Please help us!" And I was like, where did they get the sound clip of this woman saying this? Fiverr. Literally, Fiverr had Ukrainian voice actors that for $5 would read per paragraph or whatever, $5. They'd read anything in a Ukrainian accent, and you could even tell them, like, you want inflections, emotion, and they basically thought that they were acting. Like the Fiverr people were like, "Oh, I'm reading a script for like a independent film or something that they're doing." And so people were going to Fiverr, paying the $5, getting that, playing it over the top of the looping war footage. And so they didn't even have to be there. It was completely on autopilot. And some of these bots were running like, 100 channels each. And these channels, some of them were making $20,000 to $50,000 in tips an hour.
I believe it.
So they made, tens of millions of dollars, and they're still there. Like now people are getting a little bit wiser to it, but still, you go there, you'll find channels with 5,000 to 10,000.
I wondered why I kept seeing there was certain footage like on Twitter and stuff that they just kept. I was like, they're like, "Oh, new bombing," and I'm like, "No, it's not. I've seen that footage like 5 times already." Like, it's like. And the thing is, people didn't pick up because people, when you're in a situation of like empathy and emotion and fear, your common sense kind of gets overridden and sidestepped. Because you either go into fight or flight, or if you feel empathy for somebody else, you override your better judgment because you want to help somebody, right? Your nature over nurture or whatever. So when you're in this situation, you're easily manipulated, and so easily manipulated, in fact, that the clip that was on the channel that was making the most money repeated. The clip literally had a hard repeat point in it that looked like a buffering thing, right? Hard repeat point, like every 10 minutes. And it was the same audio clip of the woman going, "Please help, we need help, please send money, thank you." And then what they did is they had points where she'd say, "Thank you, we see the donation, thank you so much, you're saving my child." And then they'd play the baby crying in the background, mama, help, I'm so scared. And people are just dumping money like, please, we're saving you, can come live with me, I'll fly you here, where are you, I'll come get you. People in chat were like freaking out, like, "Oh my God, we're gonna watch this lady die." And it turns out that no, it's just some tech scammer from a country that's just running a bot network, looping this video and looping, $10 they spend on Fiverr or whatever, and they're pulling in, $50,000 a day, and TikTok's paying it out. TikTok's not even withholding the money. These people have been paid out. They got their money, and it's like, wow. And then not a single cent of that is going to go to Ukraine or anything. So as a matter of fact, I'd argue that a lot of those bots are probably controlled by Russia propaganda networks and stuff, and they're using that money for their own benefit to further. It works beautifully because then they can say, like, "Look, see, the Ukrainians are making this shit up."
Exactly. So this is where technology, like the trust of technology, starts getting a little bit scary, because TikTok is putting it on the front page as the most viewed stream, but you're assuming that because TikTok is showing it to you that it's legit. And then you make the assumption that because it has 50,000 viewers, it's legit. But the only reason it has 50,000 viewers is because TikTok moved it to the top, because they're lying and they're playing the clips. So everything that you're using to give you that confirmation that this is a trustworthy source, all of those stats were faked. They were all manipulated. And so you have a high level of trust. Oh, I see the doggo. You have a high level of trust for it. Yeah. Hey, Eric, thank you for the $2 super chat earlier, brother. He said, "Woohoo, awesome tech talk." And while I'm having lunch, well, I'm sure you're done with lunch now. That was 2 hours ago. I apologize for that. Johnny Garcia, thank you for the $10 super chat. He said, "I love the stream. I always enjoy questioning my sense of self." Well, yeah, it's you got to question your sense of self every once in a while. I am me. Thank you for the $11 super chat. He said, "The dog behind David is worth another 10." Oh, man.
I know. Do you see that? They got another 10.
Cash, bro.
You guys got another 10 out of my dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
maybe you could pitch in for some dog food once in a while, guys.
there you go. There you go. So now that, you know, I basically kind of laid a little bit of groundwork of like how social engineering, not just to hack into a system, but also to manipulate people into giving money, right? That's every scam is a social engineering exercise.
Yeah.
Like when the dude calls in and says, oh, we detected a virus on your computer.
Jack here is trying to make a distinction. I don't agree with this. Jack Painting is making a distinction here. This is where a con man is someone who uses manipulative practices to scam people out of money for pure profit. Social engineer, someone who runs social experiments for the knowledge, not financial gain. That I feel like that is.
Do people do
that's
that?
That's like a hacker, right? There are two kinds of hackers, or sort of like there's the ones who break into things for fun and profit, or you know, and then there's white hat hackers who are like defending the honeypot or whatever. Like, what's the difference? A con man is using social engineering tactics. Like it's a social engineering is like an umbrella. You have good actors and bad actors who use these skills and abilities. It's like lock picking. It's like lock picking. I can use my lock picking skills to break into homes and steal shit, or I can use my lock picking skills to help people out who get locked out of their house or whatever. It's lock picking is the umbrella. How you use those skills is what makes it good or bad. So social engineering is the umbrella, whether you use it to manipulate and con people or use it to like learn about sociality or whatever,
sometimes
society
it's
or whatever.
You just
like,
want to
it's the same skill set, you're just using it for different reasons. And I don't think there's a con men are still using social engineering techniques, and they're learning too, right? You have to learn how to do this stuff in order to be good at it. So it's like you're just making a distinction of good or bad, or what you're using the skill for.
Literally
still, so in my opinion,
in this application.
In my opinion,
you're 100% right.
It's the same skill set. You're using your social engineering skills, whether just like an electrical engineer can make a bomb or can fix my light bulbs, or you know what I mean.
Is a
it's
noun,
reductive,
adjective,
you know what I'm saying.
It's like con man is descriptive of a person who social engineers something unethically. Right.
For their own
that's the definition of a con man.
Yeah.
You're referring to a person.
Okay, so
social engineering is the method by which somebody can manipulate somebody.
And he goes on to clarify in that sense, which is why I said what I said is relevant to people Jerry were describing are con men, not social engineers. So not social engineering.
I said
as a
they're
whole
using social engineering.
But regardless, we're nitpicking.
No, but here's
semantics.
Hold on. I got to say something about this. First of all, it is a little bit of I'm not mad, but it is a little bit frustrating when people try to draw distinctions that don't exist. Like just because they don't like it, it's like I consider myself a social engineer, and I find that offensive. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm a software developer, and there's bad software developers that write viruses. Does that make them not a software developer? No, they're still a software developer because they're developing software. If you're a social engineer, you're either an ethical social engineer or you're a devious. You're a devious social engineer. You're using the act of social engineering to get what you want. Now you can call that a con man if it's bad, or if it's good, you can call it a white hat hacker or an ethical social engineer. You can say those things, but you know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is still relevant. It doesn't take anything away to say it's a tool set.
I guess the concern is you don't want social engineering to become a completely negative thing. It's like the hacking thing. People talk like when I mention hacking to the tech bandits, they're all like, "Oh no, we can't do that." I was like, "Yes, you can." Hacking is like, oh my god! Instead of throwing that PlayStation away that doesn't work anymore, you take it apart, see what it does. Maybe use it for something else. I mean,
the thing is, though, social engineering is by definition the manipulation of another human. If you're doing it to figure out where a security hole or something is, then that's fine. Like that's an ethical use of it, but it's a manipulative tactic.
That's how I got Jane, social engineering.
So my point being is, even if you're an ethical social engineer, you're still using an unethical process. Like anytime that you're trying to manipulate another human being into getting a result, good, bad, or otherwise, you are manipulating another human. You are you are conning that person into doing something, even if it's good for them. Even if you're still manipulating them through social engiering. So when I say social,
isn't that dating though? Like dating's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, like you show your best,
dude. Anytime that you are faking the representation of who you truly are for the benefit of yourself, then yeah, you were definitely social engineering.
Shane didn't marry me for this face. You know, I mean, it's
I don't know, man. Pretty handsome face.
I created a package. I created a package there. You know what I mean? There was, you know.
But the thing
Jason Momoa asked me how on earth I ended up with Jane, and I said trickery and deceit. It's the only way to do it. I'm not looking like you, Jason. It's trickery and deceit. Jason.
You know what you should have said? You should have just said went like this and then went around. Oh my gosh, here comes those bots. We're gonna be talking about those here in a little while too.
What, there are bots?
Oh my gosh, dude. Did you see my huge Twitter thread that I wrote last night?
And boys 18 plus. Wow.
Yeah, man.
I had no idea that we had hot girls and guys as such big fans of what we do here.
Yeah. So bots are a big problem right now. God, like this is actually one of the biggest misuses of technology I've ever seen in my life. That is, people have discovered that if you create a bajillion accounts and you put them on every single social network and you literally just respond to anybody that says any buzzword that indicates that they need their account recovered or they have a virus or
I made the mistake of mentioning that Jane's Instagram account got hacked, and oh my God, I've never got so much bullshit.
You just get flooded. It's estimated that up to 25% of all the accounts on every social media platform are bots at this point. 25%. It's crazy. Some are even more. So here's the problem with these bot networks. You can't stop them, because the botnets are largely deployed using like APIs and unfortunately GitHub has access to software that can defeat CAPTCHA using localization, or not localization, sorry. If you're blind, and you have to listen to the stuff, basically what it'll do is it'll have it play the CAPTCHA and then do speech to text and then enter the CAPTCHA and defeat it. So a lot of the stuff that's going on with CAPTCHA that's supposed to protect it can be circumvented by having to cater to people that can't see. So that technology already exists on GitHub, right? So it's easy to write a script, and you can even buy scripts on the dark web that will just generate 10,000 Gmail accounts and 10,000 Instagram accounts connected to those Gmail accounts and 10,000 Twitter accounts.
You can?
Yeah, you could.
That'd be kind of fun to play with, wouldn't it?
A couple $100. Yeah. So, or you could just write one yourself, which is what I'm planning on doing, because I came to the conclusion that you can't stop the bots. I've tried everything. I've tried deleting them. I've tried creating the regular expressions that identifies them and deletes the comments. But as fast as you can delete the comments, new bots are coming online, and comments are being spread faster than the API will let you delete.
Robot versus robot.
So that's what it is. That's where we get into adversarial networks. Exactly.
Adversarial networks. That's it.
And so I did a huge Twitter write-up. If you guys go to it's my pinned tweet right now. I think it's like 20 some tweets long, but I go through and explain all of the services that are available to generate bots that cannot be confirmed as bots, that will be treated as real users for the purpose of hunting these bots down for the purpose of getting to a human. So the whole purpose of this bot network is to get to a human and document the path to that human. And then once it gets to that human, all it's going to do is try to waste as much of that human's time as possible. And then when it ends, it's going to use the rest of the bot network to mass report them so they go to the top of the list to be deleted, their primary account. So I was going through and I was running a simulation last night, and I was like, okay, where are the bad spots in this where this won't work? I couldn't find many. This would absolutely 100% work. And so everybody's trying to delete the bots. Everybody's trying to suppress the messages or hide the messages or filter the messages, but you can't do that because it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. They're inserting random typos. They're using neural networks to generate human readable, text so that it
GPT-3.
Exactly.
So a couple bucks for a GPT-3 API license, and you're golden. Nobody would know the difference.
100%. So my idea is, if you can't beat them, join them. So what I want to do is I want to create an infrastructure, and I'd love to get some help on this. Like if people want to write modules, I want to create a deployable botnet that will create, and I know it's against TOS of these platforms, but again, you got to fight fire with fire. So what I want to do is I want to create an adversarial bot network that basically creates accounts on Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, Skype. I mean, across the board. I want to create a bunch of Gmails, verify them, create those accounts, verify them all through script. All the shit to do this exists on GitHub. And go through, create those accounts. And then once I create the bot network, I'm going to populate the avatar image with the face generator. Remember that face generator that we found? So that if any bots integrate reverse image lookup to see if it's a fake account, they won't be able to, it'll look like a real human account. And then all of the data is going to be generated from the story creation. Pull the first paragraph from a story generator, and just put in a word like Cash App to start the story. And then what it's going to do is it's going to give you a bio that what they're looking for buzzwords like Cash App and PayPal and stuff like that. It's going to generate a random story that has that, and they're not going to be able to match on it because it's going to be organic and change for every bot. And then you continuously change those daily so that each bot is getting a new image, a new name, a new bio. So you basically have this bot network. And then what the bots are going to do is they're just going to talk to each other. They're going to copy messages from other people, like real messages. Just refresh the Twitter feed, refresh the Instagram feed, refresh the Facebook feed, and just grab random conversations between two people, and then have two of your bots take on those roles and duplicate those messages. So it looks like real humans are having conversations in real time between the bots. So that way, if a human looks at the replies to their scams, they're going to go, they're going to click on the account and go, okay, this isn't a bot that's hunting us. This is a real person we can scam. And here's how the scam works. I already mapped the whole thing out and figured out, and this is 100% across the board how this works. So you will get a message on either Twitter, or it doesn't matter, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It happens on every single platform. If you type a buzzword that gets them, like Cash App or PayPal or need help or I got hacked or my Facebook got hacked. I mean, there's all these different phrases that'll trigger different types of bots trying to engage you and scam you in a different way. But there's one thing they all do. And I was trying to figure out why they did this, and now it makes perfect sense. So what they'll do is they'll send you a message on the platform, something along the lines of, oh, hey, I have a friend over on Instagram that can help you with this. So then you go to Instagram and you go to that account, but that Instagram account doesn't allow any public comments and there's no public posts. That means you can't report the account to be removed, because to report the account, you have to be able to report a message or a post, and you can't report it if it isn't there. So these accounts on Instagram have no, and that's why they usually send you to Instagram versus everything else. Like 99% of them send you to Instagram. So now you go there. So the only thing you can do, since you can't report them, is you can send them a private message. You can DM them. Well, when you DM them and say, hey, I need my account unlocked, or hey, I heard you can help me, or whatever, you'll get another botted reply back that says, oh yeah, dude, we can totally help you with that. Go over to WhatsApp or go over to Telegram and message us on private message us. And the reason that they do that is because now they're not breaking the TOS on Instagram, which means now that account is insulated. So you can't get that account banned off of Instagram. The account that you get banned off of Twitter could be 1,000 accounts sending people to the one Instagram account. And then the one Instagram account sends you to the real account on WhatsApp that's only private conversations. So there's really not a lot you can do as far as getting them banned, at least as an individual. So then it sends you to them. At that point, now a human joins, because they have a thing that in their queue that says, oh,
they filtered you down.
Exactly. They filtered you down. If you got to that point, which a bot could easily do, easily do. So once you get to that point where you have a human, now a human is in the queue and they come and talk to you. And then what you do is you just go through and you analyze what they're saying. You put it through the GPT-3 natural speech language, and you give them a reply that's leaning towards the side of like, oh, I don't think I quite understand. Could you explain again? Hey, is there anything that we can do? And then you wait for them to stop responding. You basically keep going back and forth until they get frustrated or they disengage. As soon as they disengage, you say, hey, is there any way you could just call me on the phone? Like, it'd be a lot easier. As soon as they see that, they get excited because they're like, wow, okay, this is a real person. If it was a bot, they wouldn't want to do a real phone call. So then there's a site that you can go to that generates phone numbers that are unallocated in any jurisdiction. So you can basically say, give me a bunch of phone numbers that are not allocated in Texas or California or wherever you're claiming your bot is from. And you give them that number. When they call that number, it's going to say the number is disconnected or no longer in service. So they're going to reply back and say, we can't call you. You just say, hey, my phone isn't ringing. Just try it again. And you just keep going back and you waste their time. And so the idea being is try to and wait a long time between replies. So you're basically keeping them on the hook for, 10, 20 30 minutes. Now,
so you're tying up the human element.
You're tying up a human element. But now here's what
that's costing them money.
Once you know it's a human element, once you know, and this conversation has proceeded far enough that you can wait the conversation and say, I am confident that this is a human because we're going back and forth. Once you get to that point on that account, now you do a reverse lookup. Now what you do is you take the WhatsApp account and you look for any Instagram account that mentions this account. And then you go back to Twitter and you say, find every account that mentions this Instagram account. And you effectively go backwards and you can find every single bot in their network, every single Instagram account that all lead up the pyramid to that one human account that they do all the scamming through. Then what you do is once you have that account, you go back and use the API to mass report all the Twitter accounts, all the YouTube comment accounts. You go through and you have your bot network mass report it so that it goes to the top so that a human will be oh my God, 10,000 people reported this. We got to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you knock out those primary accounts. And then what you do is you keep bringing bots in to tie up. If they have 20 humans that are monitoring that WhatsApp or that Telegram, what you do is you slowly bring in more and more bots with different conversations, different profiles to tie up every single human to the point where they have no idea if they're talking to a real human or a bot. And they get so frustrated that they're wasting so much time with bots that even once they get to a human, chances are they're going to think it's a bot and they're going to get paranoid and break off communication with them. So in rinse and repeat and maintain this bot network and grow it. And the whole idea is this bot network will just live to create so many phantoms that there is no way, even on YouTube or whatever, you can never trust that a DM that's coming to you through this process is a real human or not. And there's no way to truly know until you take it to the end. So, and the technology all exists to do this without repeating phrases, without repeating information, using completely unique profile images that look like real humans. I mean,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I was like, if we could deploy this network, now granted, it violates a lot of TOSs because we're literally violating the same TOS on these networks that the bots are, but it would be for a good cause. It'd be the Robin Hood effect. So I would want to deploy this under my own account. I would go create phantom accounts. I'd use Tor and VPN to create new IPs for each bot that's being generated. And I'd deploy this whole thing on something like Azure.
Nice. Yeah, that's smart.
But yeah, so I'm looking into like how to build the pieces to do this. But if this bot network got deployed, it would literally just one-to-one tie up every bot on Twitter. It would even respond to the bots on Twitter and basically leave a message that would indicate to somebody else that they might not want to get sucked in by the scam. And as you're doing the mass reporting to take the bots out, you can also simultaneously be posting on those accounts and replying to every scam message, telling the person that they message that this is a bot, you do not want to engage it. If you want more information, go here. And then as soon as your bot is compromised and they add you to the blacklist, because they do, if they have a bunch of bots coming in, they will start blacklisting them. What you do is you just have the bots roll their information, and then once the bot is no longer successful getting to the human, you just neutralize the bot, delete the account, create a new one, new image, new dossier, and bring it online and to replace it. And you just maintain a large botnet of a fixed number of bots that are continuously applying pressure. Now, if you did this, there's no way for them to defend against it. So I think it would be amazing. So if you guys want to steal my idea, please by all means do it.
Do it.
I like bot versus bot. I think that's cool.
That's the solution, though. I think it's one of those things where it's like you can't stop the bots. So if you can't stop them, you basically have to make it a needle in a haystack for them to find a real human.
Yeah.
Well, but part of the problem as well is that these companies don't want to know how many bots they've got because they're using their garbage numbers as telling people how successful their networks are too.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why you're never going to see them do anything.
That's it. Yeah.
But I mean, but by that same logic, David, they would also accept our botnet because our botnet would be
absolutely
more
they want.
traffic.
Oh my God, we just got another 1,000 new viewers. Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, we end up screwing the advertisers more in the end, but we end up occupying the bot network. Because if you've ever watched like Kit Boga's videos and stuff, they get so mad when the scammer wastes like 45 minutes. And he knows he's about to get a credit card number, and you start like giving him wrong credit card. Oh, I gave you the wrong digits. They're like, oh my God, are you dumb? Come on, we're almost there. They get so emotionally invested in it. And if you could create a bot network that just used random timings and analysis,
just breaks them all.
Just break them. Just drive them absolutely nuts. And I would wager that once they encounter like 30 or 40 bots in one day, even when they get to the real human, they're going to instantly question that it's a human. Yeah. They're going to be like, no, you're a bot. Like if the person replies like, oh, where do I send the money? Oh, you're a bot. Screw you. Disconnect. And it's like, oh, you just had a real human on, but we've conditioned you to dismiss them as a bot. And so as long as you can apply enough pressure that they're wasting more resources on IP telephone gateway, business accounts, the computers to rein in and scam the people, and the other thing too is you actually can report the financial accounts too. This is something you don't get because again, you have to, because I've done this manually myself many times, and I want to make a video on this to show people how to do this manually because it is fun to do manually. What you do is fish a bot on Twitter. Like say, I need cash. I have a cash app. Somebody send me money. Boom. You get a bot that replies and says, oh, I'm a sugar mama. I want to send you money. Contact me here on Instagram. Then you go over to Instagram and you contact them. You DM and say, oh yeah, I saw, hey, you want to be my sugar mama or whatever? And then you'll get another reply that's automated. That's like, yeah, you just got to come over to Telegram or come over to WhatsApp, this phone number, and we'll do it. And then you go over to WhatsApp. And then when you get to WhatsApp, you're like, hey, I'm here. Like, how do I get that money or whatever? And then they'll reply back and they'll start talking to you. Be like, okay, what I need you to do is install a thing so that I can can control your computer remotely. And then you're like, well, can't I just give you my information? Like, can I just send you the money? You just say that. You say like, listen, you don't even have to take control. I'll send you the money to be my sugar mama. Just like, what's your PayPal? And then they'll give you the PayPal because they think you're a human that's naive enough that made it to that point. You take that PayPal, go back to PayPal and mass report it with your bot network, or all your friends go pile on it and report it as fraudulent activity. PayPal investigates and sees all the money coming into that PayPal account are from like randos, and it's not being declared what it is. And they can freeze the assets of that account out from underneath them before they can get it.
And what are you using though to contact people? You have like some kind of a clean account of some sort so you're not identified as the person who's actually talking with these people.
I have a secondary account that's actually my real name and my real picture, and I've done it successfully many times just using that one account, and they don't seem to be catching on.
All right, that's cool.
Because there's so many different bots. What are the odds you're going to
not going to get back to you anyways?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. So what you do is you go after their financial. Because you can get them to cough it up.
No, I love the idea of going after their finances. Hit them where it hurts, and the money hurts, man. You tie them up so they cost them more to do the scams.
Yeah, honestly, you wouldn't even need the bot network if everybody did this. If everybody created one alt account, like if I could get all of my followers, 114,000 people, to create one alt account, and all they did was one time a day go fish a bot or go find a bot and go through that 3-step process to get their PayPal and then publish it publicly. Hey, everybody go mass report this for scam. You would take out so many of their PayPals and so many of their Cash Apps and so many of their mechanisms before they can get the money out of it. They're going to go broke. They're absolutely going to go broke. And then they're not going to know. They're like, when they encounter a human, they're going to be like, wait, if we tip our hands to this guy, he can take out our primary account. He can take out our finances. But if we don't tip our hand to him, how do we get the money? So you got to put him in that. You got to play like super mind games with them. But I think the only way to really combat this situation is more bots, not trying to shut him down, not trying to create fancy regular expressions that identify him and delete the accounts and report the accounts. I think the better option is just to create an equally sizable botnet that can just apply huge pressure on them appearing to be human. And I don't think that that's like a very tall tale. I think that because a lot of these scammers already speak really broken English, and they're not going to really notice like the subtle differences in like Google Translate, for instance. You know, they're not going to notice that you're not speaking a language very naturally or something, because they don't speak it very well themselves. So in many cases, I think you would actually be able to get the best of them. And then we should do it live one day. Just go on, like each just get one and just do it back and forth, and people, because that should be kind of fun just to watch it happen too. It would. Actually, that's a really good idea. We should do that. Just do a live stream where it's like we randomly go fish one and go after them.
Because then a bunch of kids go like, that's funny. Look how mad they got, and look at the numbers they're getting. And then they start doing it. That's like it's an incentive for how to,
And if you can't get them to cough up the PayPal account, then what you do is you have a VM that they can terminal server into, like install the team viewer on it that they want you to. And the VM, and then when they connect to it, they're going to open your web browser, black out your screen, and try to log into the PayPal. But on your side, you can still see the screen through the VM, and you can record the screen while he's doing everything. And so when they put in their financial information to do the wire transfer or whatever that they think they're doing with a fake website, Kit Boga does this all the time. Now you've got their financial data, and they didn't want you to see their financial data because they know that you could report them for scamming. So they don't think you see it, but you can see it. And so there's all kinds of little tricks you could do. And the neat thing is with automation, the way these neural networks work and the way that the natural language identification stuff works, and what is it, GPT-3? You could just go through and create a bot that could do all of this stuff, and it might not get it 100% of the time, but if it gets it 90% of the time, it's still going to put so much negative pressure on them.
Could with the VM, is there a way, like, could you install something that tricks them into thinking that they're doing what they're doing when they're actually sending the money to you?
Yeah. Actually,
because you'd have both accounts. If you could somehow like do one of those fake screens that says, are you sure you want to transfer money from what they think is my account to their account? And actually what it's done is just reverse the...
Well, the problem is they'll never log into their account through your VM. They're just going to try to wire transfer money to their account. But what you can do is duplicate the bank, duplicate Bank of America. There's a whole bunch of GitHub projects that'll let you just duplicate a bank. And so they put in any account number, it'll just automatically show fabricated data and say, oh, transactions complete, like if you wire transfer. Yeah. But by them doing that wire transfer, they have to expose the account that they're wire transferring to. And then you can report that wire transferred account, that global account, to whatever banking organization as fraudulent.
I was just wondering if there's a way to like just drain their account as well. Like it would just be just so much fun to actually steal their money at the same time.
I mean, there is a guy that does that on YouTube, but he tricks the guy into installing stuff on their computer
into the web camera and stuff.
Yep,
it's very cool.
Yeah,
I'm afraid I got to run.
Oh,
I'm
you got to
afraid
take off?
I am. My
Goodbye.
time is done. I'm afraid I must go to the real world where I
Okay, boss.
won't have as much fun. I'm sure.
All right, well, go have fun, my man.
Good to see you
enjoy
all.
your.
I'm so glad I
weekend,
could
right?
pop in for a bit. And let me know when you're doing that coding stuff because I'd love to at least
that'd be
at least
fun.
Yeah, I want to take
keep
it to
an
the
eye on it.
scammers, dude. I think that's where my
Yeah.
passion lies these days. Is I just want to make scammers' life a living nightmare. So,
Well, and honestly, good content.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you get to make people's lives misery and don't feel guilty about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, get out of here. Give the family our best.
Goodbye.
To you all. Have a wonderful week. Talk soon.
Peace out, man.
Bye.
Later.
Hey, review playing and more. Thank you for the $8 super chat. He said, I have the same mic as David. I love it. All the best.
It's a good one.
Yeah, no, I like his mic, that little RGB thing. Oh, Gimpy, what's up, my Gimps? Thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, I agree with you guys on one thing. I'm sucking super hard on the hose of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the knowledge.
Knowledge.
We know what you're doing. So the end of this conversation, because this went all over the place, but here's the thing where this is what I really wanted to talk about, like summing this all up and come in full circle. And I want you to come up with some scenarios too, is what are some worst case scenarios for technology that exists today that nobody's thought about, like or at least isn't like a huge public opinion. Like I've been just sitting down and thinking about like all the technology in my house, all the technology that exists and how I've seen it used bad already that people don't know about, and how it could potentially be used bad if you factor in like social engineering or taking advantage of a vulnerability. So here, I'll start. I'll throw out like a really obvious one that you don't hear a lot of people talk about. And that is, this is actually Hackers. So the movie Hackers, right? The premise is they take over, a ship or whatever, and they're going to capsize it if they don't get $1 billion or whatever, right?
Right.
So because they control the navigation system on the rig. Well, what do we have that has autopilot now that's driving around on the road? Cars. All cars have, like all new nice cars like the Tesla, Mercedes and stuff. They all have a steering rack with an electric motor that can steer it. They all have drive-by-wire brakes and drive-by-wire throttle, which means that the throttle and brakes can act completely independently of the pedal. So now if you go with the worst case scenario like Tesla, let's assume that Tesla is vulnerable just like any other company like Microsoft or something, and they find a way to get a hold of the private key so that they can deploy a firmware update over 4G or 3G network, and they update your car in the middle of the night, and you go get in your car and it locks all 4 doors, and you get on the freeway and you start driving, and then it basically pops up on the screen with a really loud alert, and it says you have to send this amount of Bitcoin to this address within the next 10 minutes, or we're going to crash your car at 150 miles an hour with you in it, or your family.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it sends a message to everybody else that's associated to the person on Facebook, hoping that they can get a hold of like a husband or a father or a brother. You have 10 minutes to transfer the Bitcoin to this address, or we're going to crash the car. And then it shows the camera feed from inside of the car of your family, like freaking out, and they can't stop it. They can't turn it off. None of the buttons are working. Nothing stops it. It just keeps going because the computer is completely taken over. It's you're now in a situation where you have a car. Hell, it could even just lock the doors. It could lock the doors and then say if it detects that the windows shatter or it detects any kind of concussion inside, it's just going to slam the accelerator down. Oof. So you could even have it sitting in a parking lot with you locked in it, and says if you tip off anybody or call anybody or do anything, because they can monitor you theoretically.
Right.
And if you trip any sensor, we're going to start the car, put it in full reverse, go as hard as we can, put it in forward, and just punch it until you hit something. And we're going to repeatedly do that as much as we possibly can, and with the doors locked so you can't escape the vehicle. Hell, you could even do something like control the BMS on the battery. You could say, I want to discharge the battery at 600 amps and cause the battery to overheat, shut down the pump so the coolant's not going through it, overheat the battery and have the battery expand and combust.
Oof.
Like, so now people are like, oh, but there's safeguards for that. Those safeguards are written in software. Those safeguards are software because software has taken the place of hardware. Like software is what's regulating things.
Right.
But people get into these cars and think, oh yeah, even my Chevy Volt, the brake is connected to an actuator that's stronger than my physical foot that can apply like 300-400 foot-pounds of torque. So if it doesn't want me to push the pedal, it's not going to let me push the pedal. And that's exactly what happened when that car slid down that hill and wrecked, is I could not push the brake pedal because it locked me out of it, thinking that it was better with its drive-by-wire system, knew what to do better than I did. And so you think about, as we become more technological, that's one that I thought about, is it's like your car if somebody could compromise that, either using near field communication, meaning that they're in the parking lot and they're like creating a 3G network that's spoofing Tesla and talking to your car somehow, and it figures out those encryption keys because somebody like Lapsus compromises Tesla and gets their accounts and their trust keys for talking to the cars. They could put this system backdoor a bunch of cars before they fix the patch. And then once they fix the patch, they're like, oh, okay, crisis averted. But many of those cars could still have that thing dormant and giving them remote access. So it's this constant fight back and forth. But I'm like, people just jump in the car and they don't even think about it. It's like they don't see a difference between a Tesla and like an old school gas car. It's like you get in, you push the gas, you shift the gears, you turn the wheel, and you get where you're going. But it's like the Tesla does have the theoretical capability to be controlled remotely.
Oh yeah.
So,
there was I remember there was early on some kid had hacked one and showed that he could from basically anywhere tell it to go back to like the local dealership or whatever. Like the thing would basically drive itself, and I think this was early on, they patched it or whatever, but it just shows that like he could have potentially, like within 100-mile radius or whatever, just told every Tesla that around that said, hey, you got to go back home. And they would just all like wake up and start driving back to their dealership or local repair center or whatever. Yeah. As a trip.
So creepy, man.
I think spoofing of people through text messages,
Totally.
so much communication, like I know my teenager communicates almost exclusively through text on like Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, and like catfishing in a sense could, whether you pretend to be like a wholly like fictional person or you are pretending to be someone else that like you've heard stories of people like they spoof the voice of the bank manager on the phone and say, hey, we got Tim Jenkins from IT coming in. He's going to be doing something or whatever. Go ahead and just let him into the vault. It's no big deal. I'm bank manager Johnson, and here's my security code or whatever. And it sounds just like him, or authorizes some massive transaction, right? Like you got to get some manager's approval or whatever, and they get them on the phone, but it's not really them because they've hijacked the phone line, and it's completely fake AI stuff. That's one I feel
AI
like
voice, right? You can do AI voice,
you
can do AI face in real
time.
Like
people like on a sort of intellectual level know that that's a thing, but it's been done like in fiction so much that they might not believe that it's like legit possible. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Big one, dude.
Or even spoofy stuff like recently the Tinder swindler kind of a thing where like you could totally scam people with fake pictures, fake. Yep. In fact, it's a thing that's happening even now as far as like misinformation and fake news and that sort of a thing. I've stumbled across a few different articles of like, this is Sarah Jenkins, that she's a recruiter for big IT company number 3 or whatever, but this whole LinkedIn account is fake. Yeah. But it looks super legit. The articles that they reshare, the posts that they make, it all looks very human. The background of this person, even the age of the account and everything like lines up. It looks right. It looks good, but it's completely fake. The picture, the everything.
Yeah. Have you seen the script that's on GitHub that auto generates videos on YouTube?
No, but I'm not surprised that there is one.
So Russia's been heavily using this. So I got to go find the name of the project. I don't know if I want to make it public though, like because I don't want people getting this.
I'm sure a few minutes on Google you'll find it. You'll leave it as an exercise for the class.
You're right. So here's what it does. If you've ever watched YouTube and you've seen a video pop up that just has like a bajillion views, and you click on it, it's like, hello, how are you today? War in Ukraine, missiles come down, strike building, explosions, Russian minister says blah, blah, blah. And it's like jump cutting between clips of what it's talking about. There's actually a program on GitHub that you can actually run that will go and screen scrape video clips from YouTube on the content, and you can write the script. You basically just put in whatever you want it to say, and it will go and find the video clips that are relevant. Like, oh, if you say the word Putin, it goes and finds a random video of Putin and just shows it. out of order. And it's basically a script that can just generate, they have like 10,000 channels, and they just upload one video to each channel every single day that's auto generated. And even if they only get like 1,000 or 2,000 views, the revenue generated and the total number of views are in the hundreds of millions. So basically you just create, and you can use it for like fake news. You can put in there, be like, oh, today, like the one that I hate the most is there's one for Elon Musk where every thumbnail is like, they just steal a thumbnail from something else Elon Musk did on the thing, and they'll have like a picture of him sitting there, and it's like Elon Musk announces today new bike that goes 6,000 miles on one charge. You know, it's like he is the tech giant, and it's got like 13 million views. And I'm like, holy shit. And they put out a new video every day. And if you go look, none of it is true. Like, oh, Elon Musk launches new rocket to moon, lands on moon successfully. And he does it in a way where it's like getting clips of like Elon standing next to the thing, 3D videos for it's completely auto-generated though. And you're like, wow. So somebody figured out how to create a YouTube channel that just generates its own content with like no human involvement. They don't even have to write the scripts. They can just point it at some bonkers article, copy the text from it, feed it into this thing, and it'll generate a video and speak the text along with it. And they can even change the voices.
Wow.
So I was like, I'll send you a link later. It's like, but it's pretty bad. Like they could do better if they used a better voice technology, because the one they use is kind of stupid. It's like, hello, today, friends, Conrads, this is what is going on. You know, you can tell it's synthesized. But if they used like a true, like, you know, what is it, AT&T True Speech or whatever it is, you wouldn't know. It sounded like somebody was actually narrating it.
The fake stuff, honestly, is just a matter. It's really just a matter of time. Like if you put they're pumping out a video every day, there's not enough time to really dial in the model. So and honestly, I'm surprised that it wouldn't have gotten better over time. Like you keep pumping out these videos, each one should be incrementally better than the last. And after, I don't know, a week or two, it should be tip top. If it's a training sort of thing, if it's built to get better and better, if they're just locked in with some cheeseball model that they bought and it's set and it's done, it's not actually like a training exercise, then it's just going to stay shitty. But there's no reason not to. Those tools are freely available, just like Deep Face Live kind of stuff. Like it's there. You can just do that. Yeah. And that's incredible. The live thing. Again, I said this on the company account, but I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise is the most deep faked face now. Yeah, like I could be looking like Tom Cruise with a beard right now, and if I stayed pretty still, y'all wouldn't notice the difference. My 3080 Ti would not even cry, would not even be breaking a sweat. Not even keeping this live. You guys would not. It would look like Tom Cruise was wearing a fake beard, but his face and stuff would be. And the hat makes it easier. You know, because all it's got to do is fake like this part and maybe my teeth a little bit. Sometimes if I kept still enough, I'm too animated for it to work really well. But like if I were just giving a speech, just standing here like this and saying blah 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 blah, you guys wouldn't be able to tell the difference. With the compression and everything and how many times this is being sent from one place to another, you wouldn't tell. The voice obviously is wrong, but that's another step and some time. Easy.
Yep. So check this out. So all I did was search for, I went to YouTube and I just searched for Elon Musk, and the very first video that pops up only has 7,000 views because again, they're flooding so many of them. They don't need a lot of views, right? Like, so the title of the video is Elon Musk. I tried to warn you, things are getting serious 2020. Hashtag Elon Musk, hashtag AI, hashtag technology. Now I'm going to start playing this and let's see if this sounds like it was created completely by software, if it's completed or it's an actual human being video.
So the voice, we're just listening to voice. Okay.
Yeah. We're just listening to voice. Listen.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Here, I'll fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, so nobody's hearing anything. I don't think it's coming out.
Sorry,
I can't hear it.
I'll give you guys the link. I'll just give you guys the link. Here,
I was like, I even unmuted the YouTube and I can't hear.
Oh, anything. You know what? I bet you. Do I have it turned? Hold on. Do I have it muted? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't see around my mic. No, it wasn't. It wasn't doing the audio. But basically, you have all these channels.
Weird. What the heck?
That create these videos that are just auto-generated. Like here's one from like DDG. Let me see if this one's more.
Why is my YouTube like Chrome isn't this is all me, but for some reason my Chrome isn't pushing audio out to my ears. This is very strange.
Weird. There's go do a search, like later on, guys, go do a search for Elon Musk and look for thumbnails that are super duper clickbaity and click on them. And I guarantee you, like every third or fourth video, click on and be like, Elon Musk today says, we will go to the moon in 3 days. And it'll just be jump cut after jump cut after jump cut from other random Elon Musk clips. And there's entire bot networks that deploy entire giant channels that do nothing but publish like 10 of these videos a day. And so now, and people watch them. I mean, they have thousands of views. The channels aren't getting banned because apparently it's not against TOS to do that. But here's where, like, you were talking about the deep fake and the deep audio stuff, right? Like using that to blackmail people. Because I could just create, let's say I hack your wife's account and I send you a message and I'm like, oh, hey, hey, baby, I just sitting out here. Hey, send me a picture of the D or something, like, I'm sitting here all alone. You'd think nothing of it because you're just like, oh, that's my wife. Sure, I'm going to do that. And then once they have that, then they reply back, I got you, some bitch. Like, pay me $3,000 or I'm going to send this to all your family members. I mean,
joke's on you. Like, I give a shit.
Joke's on you, man. That image is already on Pornhub.
Do it. But, I'll spin my shit into a Kim K empire. Yep. You don't even know. I dare you.
And this actually, by the way, it wasn't a dick pic, but this actually did happen last week when my dad's account got hacked. So my dad's Facebook account got hacked, and they messaged me and they're like, "Hey, son," and I'm like, okay, well, my dad doesn't usually talk like that or whatever. And he's like, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? I'm like, oh, Dad, because I haven't heard from him like 6 months. I'm like, yeah, everything's going all right, Dad. Like, what's going on or whatever. He's like, hey, I could really use some money to get me by, until next week or whatever. Hey, could you spot me $300 or $500 or something like that? And I replied back and I was like, dude, I just gave you $300 like last week when I saw you in person at my sister's house or whatever. And he's like, oh, I know. I just need like 300 more. I promise I'll pay you back. And then he posts the email or the where to send the money or whatever. And it was like Cash App $ Barnacules dad. And I was like, my dad isn't called Barnacules dad. So, like in one, my dad doesn't even know what Cash App is. So there's like no way he could do this. So then I replied back and I called him a matachode and he's like, ha, screw you, sleep with one eye open or whatever. And I was like, and then I banned him. I reported the account and then my dad had to go back through the process to get his account back. Yeah. But that's what they do is they'll get an account and then they'll start messaging all the people that they see you interacting with the most publicly. And they'll message them and they'll try to study it and try to act like they're you and be like, oh, hey, I'm stuck. I got pulled over by the cops or something like that. And they're saying if I don't pay, they're going to impound the car. Could you send me $50 or whatever? And then they'll put like a Cash App or a PayPal. And it's like, it's wild how effective this shit is.
Weird.
But here's the one that scared me though. Like these are all things that have happened before. Like everything that we just said has happened to somebody before. Here's the one I haven't seen yet. And this is the one that I think is really, really creepy. And that is go to Facebook and hacking Facebook accounts isn't hard. You can social engineer your way into a Facebook account, like especially if it's somebody who's not of a technical nature. Like you get their phone number, go dox them, find them, call them up, get them to divulge the information or whatever under some kind of duress or claim that you're Facebook and be like, oh, sorry, we got to reset your password. What would you like your new password to be? You can do all kinds of stuff, do that. But once you're into the account, what if, and this would even work for public accounts, actually, screw it. You don't even have to hack the account. If they're public accounts, what happens if I go grab your boss's wife? Let's say I go on there and I find your boss. You're on Facebook and you follow your boss, and I go look and it's like, oh, I work at so and so place. And then you go find the boss and it's like, oh, this is the CEO of that place. Even if you're not friends, you go on Facebook and you're like, who's the CEO of this company? This employee claims they work there. You put those two pieces of information together. Often people put their personal information. So watch where this is going. So now what I do is I go to the boss's website and I say, okay, I'm going to go find who his wife is or his partner or his girlfriend or whatever his spouse is or relationship or partner. I'm going to go find their Facebook. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to download every video clip of them from their Facebook of them talking and doing things. And, oh, hi, honey, how's it going? Blah, blah. I'm going to take all those clips and I'm going to train one half of my deep fake engine. Deep face. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab you as the employee, the person that I'm trying to extort. And I'm going to grab all your content off your page of your little, outdoors, driving your truck and vlogging and posting videos. And you can even train it off pictures too. So once I get enough training under my belt, now I go find a porn video on Pornhub that just looks like a hotel room somewhere where two people are banging. And I deep fake the face of you on the male and the face of the boss's wife on the female, and you get the proportion somewhere right, and you send to him. He's going to know it's fake. He's going to be like, that's not my wife's body, but it's going to look somewhat real. And then you're going to say, listen, if you don't give me the money, I'm going to send this to every single email account at your company. Yep. And people that haven't seen your wife naked are not going to know this isn't real. They're just going to take your word for it. And it's going to start a lot of problems in the company. It's going to affect the stock price. Even though that person knows it's fake, if it looks realistic enough that even one person could believe it, he's more than likely going to cave and give the thousands and thousands of dollars in Bitcoin to stop himself from losing his job potentially, or having the entire company, think that he's making jokes about him banging the boss's wife.
Yeah.
So just think about like how easy that would be just with public information. Like everybody posts nowadays, like it's nothing on TikTok, Instagram. So to train a model on anybody's face is not difficult to do. And to go find with all the porn that's on the internet, like it's really easy to just go type in and be like, oh, I need to find somebody who's between 5'6" and 5'7", of approximately this weight with this body shape. You would, with a little research, be able to find somebody who's a close enough approximation that somebody else would absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
So isn't that crazy?
The thing is, like, all the tools are there. Like there's really nothing. Again, it's just and something like that wouldn't even take very much time. You could do that in a weekend. Easily. It's super, super easy. Especially the hardest part would be finding enough of the right. Really, you don't even need video clips. You could use images. It'd be finding enough of the good data to train your model on. And I mean, again, look at what Corridor was able to do with one of their first deep fakes, I think, of Tom Cruise. They did it in a weekend. They did it in like a little under 48 hours or so.
Yep.
And it was pretty good. Like, especially if you wanted to throw something like up onto Snapchat or tweak it just a little bit to make it look like a Instagram video or a cell phone video, and compress it a few times, run it through Premiere a few times, and export it at 360p, where it's like just enough, like you can kind of tell that it's them, just enough to convince somebody. Yeah. Like that's the crazy part is like just recently, they're from both sides. There was a deep fake of Zelensky saying some stuff about like giving up or whatever, and then there was also another deep fake of Putin saying like he's given up and stuff, and like those were good quality.
Yeah, they went viral too.
When when it started spreading around on Twitter and stuff, it gets compressed a few times. It gets uploaded originally gets uploaded to Twitter or Instagram, where it's fairly high quality-ish, medium quality, let's say. Yeah. But then it gets reshared or downloaded and put on TikTok and downloaded from there and re-put up on Twitter, and it gets compressed 4 or 5 different times, and it starts getting a little weird and pixelated. People crop things and move it and adjust it, and then it's like, well, yeah, that totally looks like Zelensky. It sounds like Zelensky. Yep. And it's yeah, man. And it does not take long, especially if you have a fairly relatively modest machine. It really doesn't take a lot of computing power to do this fairly quickly. Like a couple days. You could turn around in a day or two, and especially with famous people, anybody famous who stands in front of a static background, who doesn't move for a good couple minutes, easy. I'm surprised we don't see more fake videos of Biden doing official press releases and standing in front of or anybody, any politician. Yeah. I'm surprised we don't see more of that, because it's all there. They've done it a million times. There's so much of what would be considered good data.
Yeah, like you could
I'm
literally,
shocked it's not more common.
Like you could take like Hunter Biden or whatever, right? He's in the media right now for shit. You could make a deep fake of him, plowing some Chinese girl or something in a hotel, and have a sign in the background that you 3D modeled and rendered into the scene that says like Burisma Holdings or something like that.
Yeah,
and people would spread that because they want to believe it, right? It's like the people that want to believe it'll spread it, and they're going to believe it. And they're not going to question it because they're going to have a bias towards wanting it to be true. So you could actually use that to change an entire narrative of something and to change the course of everything.
Wouldn't this be covered under defamation law? It doesn't matter. Once it's spread around, once the damage is done. The damage is done. It like, it's no different. Okay, so look at it from a more positive angle. The ghost of Kyiv, right? That was an airplane. That's an airplane. That was video game footage that was spread around. Looked legit to me. Yeah. I believed it. And I'm skeptical I'm a pretty heavy skeptic when it comes to shit I see on the internet. I believed it. I was hyped. That sounds cool as shit. I'm down. It looked good and fake. It took like a week of that spreading around before anybody even came out and said, before it was really public that it was fake. I'm sure people were saying, "Hey, wait, that doesn't look right." The whole time.
There was a news company. I can't remember. I think it was like one of the like Newsmax or one of the tabloid ones that actually ran that Arma clip before it was known to be fake.
Yeah,
it made it to TV, like not even just like, you know, on social media. So it's like somebody who fancies themselves a journalist, like was like, this is great footage. We got to get this on the air right now. And it's like, we got to be the first to get it out there. And they couldn't figure out it was fake.
Yeah.
And then they had to issue a retraction. So it's getting to that point now where it's like you could use the deep fake technology to extort people. And like I said, in the scenario that I was talking about, where it's like you send your boss a video of you basically, you know, of the guy extorting you, plowing his wife or whatever. It's like, even though he knows it's fake, that's still going to enrage him. Yep. That's still going to make him mad. If that got released inside of the company, it's still going to embarrass him and embarrass his wife. And people are always going to question, like, even though he knows it's fake, are other people going to know? Because again, they've never seen her naked. They don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to create a situation, and at the very least, even if everybody knows it's fake, now you got half your employees at home spanking it to the boss's wife getting plowed by, like, you know, the guy from the mailroom. Yeah. And there's no way that's not going to affect that guy's career, and he's going to know that, and he's going to have to pay up. And the problem is the person that's making the threat, you can't go after them for defamation because they're getting Bitcoin, they're anonymous, logged into an account through Tor and using a VPN. It's like, yeah, if the cops want to take up the case, they might be able to track the guy. They tracked somebody for me who was going through a VPN and an IP telephone gateway, and they went right to the dude's door who was making death threats. Mm-hmm. So it is possible, but it takes a lot of resources. But it's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's like you really don't have that much of a retaliation on average against something like that. And they're not putting a ton of risk into it because, again, if they do it right and they're remaining anonymous and everything like that, and they're only accepting the cryptocurrency through, you know, third-party wallets and stuff like that, and they're not touching the money, they're only spending it, right? You know, they're not taking it out. As soon as you take money out of a crypto wallet into the physical world, you're going to have a traceable link that links every transaction ever made together. But it's just crazy to think about that, dude. Like, you could have a fake extortion campaign that actually works because it looks good enough that it would embarrass the person. Yep. And as a matter of fact, I know somebody who paid one of those emails where it sent a message and it said, "Oh, we accessed your computer and we found pictures on your computer that we bet your wife would like to see." Huh. And it was actually a letter sent to them, like an actual, like, handwritten letter to their mailbox. And they open it up and they sent me a picture of the letter. The person, they're like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "Dude, it's not real." And he's like, "Well, because he owns a company, he's like, well, I can't afford, even though it's not real, I can't afford this, you know, getting out." So he paid them their $3,000. Even though I told him not to. He gave him the 3,000 in Bitcoin because it just would have irreparably damaged his reputation, his company. Yeah, and everything, because
just can't risk it.
Yeah, and the dude probably sent that mail to 100 different people. I'm sure he just created a stack of mails of all these CEOs of companies. He's like, well, one of these guys is not going to like that we're going to release this, and they're just going to pay up just to make it go away because they have a lot of money. And they were right. And now that they made money doing that, they're going to do another round of it, and it'll never end. Yep. So, and that's just like one scenario of technology. It's like, and that's like deep fake, and you know it's fake, but still the amount of damage that it could do to reputations is what's hurtful. But then you start getting into other technology in your house. Like, do you have cameras in your house? Do you have IP cameras anywhere in your house?
Man, I just saw a thing about Wise cameras being open for a heck of years and stuff. Yep. I have a couple of them. Yeah.
Yep. Well, there's a website. I'm not going to say what it is because it's really terrible, and it's not on Google, and it's not on Bing.
I just saw this thing on TikTok about, like, hey, here's this crap, I can't recall the name of it now, but it's like Chauvin or something like that, and it's a little blip of software that, like, scrubs for these open ports for basically unsecured wireless cameras. Yeah, there's a webpage. There's a webpage you can go to where it'll load up a random open unsecured wireless camera, and you can, like, oh, this one's like in an alleyway in fucking Jerusalem or something, and it's like you can just check this out, and it's like a thing.
So Miss Liz months ago, this is probably years ago.
Shodan, that's it. Yeah, Shodan. I missed the
Shodan.
Yeah, I missed the letter, but yeah, that's what it was. Shodan.
So there's a website that Miss Liz sent me like a year ago, and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe this exists." And back then you could find it on Bing and Google, but I got it removed. I reported it, and they did remove the link. but the site is still operating today. And if you go there, they have over 10,000 open cameras around the world. And these aren't cameras that people added. These are they're port sniffing.
They're just random.
Cameras, logging into them using default credentials, and then live broadcasting the video feeds and connecting people directly to the cameras. And if you go there, it's even indexed. You can even search through there because people that watch the cameras can say the type of stuff that they've seen while watching it. And then it makes it searchable. So you could literally go in there and type like bedroom, and you'll see video of people's bedrooms with like their baby's bassinet, with their baby like rolling around in the bassinet, and the mom and dad naked sleeping on the bed. And it's like they have no fucking idea, and you have no way of how to tell them, because the way the site works or the way that it connects you through the camera, you don't see the IP of the camera. You go through the website. So there's no way for you to like go to the ISP and say, hey, whoever has this IP leased or whatever, you need to contact them and tell them to shut this down. You have no way of sending a message or talking through the camera because they don't offer that. So you have no way to notify these people. And they're on there for like months. These people have no fucking way of knowing that there's people just literally watching them through their camera, and they'll never have any indicator that they are, because they can still access the camera themselves. They can still see the footage. They have no record of people connecting and watching those cameras. And it's like, it's freaky. It's like when I went and looked at this thing, I was like, holy shit. Like there was a lady who had a camera in her kitchen, and she was just walking around her kitchen in her bra and panties or whatever. And I was like, it wasn't a Big Brother site. This is obviously just some regular ass person with a security camera living in a bad neighborhood. They had a camera in their front yard. They had a camera in their bedroom, and they had a camera in the kitchen to like basically cover the whole house.
Jeez. And
I was like, holy shit. So, and these are just, and it even said on the site, it's like, these are cameras with open ports. And then it lists the brand of the camera. Like when you click on it, it's like, oh, this is an Asus, blah, 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 8-year-old Wi-Fi camera with this resolution, everything. Click here to go get specs on it. And I was like, I could not believe that site existed. And all the search engines could do was shut the site down because it operated in a country or on a server that was anonymous and nobody could take it down. I bet you that website's still up today. And it wasn't the only one. That was the one that was sent to me originally. After doing some research, I found some other sites, and they do have different cam types. Like some sites look like they're leveraging technology that can try passwords and brute force into some cameras.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. If you have cameras inside of your house where they can see you when you're in a compromised position or nude, chances are there is something out there recording that until you do something bad enough that they can either extort you or just go sell it on the dark web.
Yep. It's crazy.
Super sad.
Crazy stuff.
But yeah, that's, I mean, and then you got Alexa, right? You got Alexa in your house listening to every
I got the
thing you
Google.
say.
Yeah, the Google.
Yep, and Google or Siri. We got 100, the Cortana. Like there's you have so many devices in your house listening to you right now. And the devices are like, oh, but we don't send that text to the servers. Like we process it on the client side, but it's like, no, they actually do send the audio histogram to the server, which the audio histogram can be played back and can be turned into text and can be stored. So when you're talking around your Alexa and all of a sudden you notice you're like, oh, hey, I really got to, I'm going to try Pennzoil in my car. I think I'm going to change the oil tomorrow, put Pennzoil in my Subaru STI. And then the next day you start seeing stuff pop up on Facebook and YouTube and stuff about Pennzoil in cars. And you're like, hey, I was just talking about that yesterday. A lot of these devices, even though they claim they're not doing it, I still think that they might not be sending your voice and what you're saying to the server, but they definitely are processing the words and phrases you're saying and sending that weighted marketing data to the server.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and people just, I mean, but here's the thing: they even caught a dude. They caught a dude that, now this is actually a good story. They caught a dude that committed murder because Alexa actually, like the person that was getting murdered, triggered it accidentally. And it was like listening. And so it sent the command to the server, which was like, oh my God, please stop killing me. Why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And it like sent the audio to the server to be reconciled. And then it came back and it's like, oh, I don't understand what you're asking. But they had a log of it and the police were able to subpoena and go pull all the things that were heard with an earshot of it. And they actually convicted the guy on it.
Jeez.
So that I'd say that was a good outcome, but still, if they can do that, it's like how many private conversations has Alexa heard that somebody's going to break into Amazon or Lapsus is going to get access to Amazon and then pull the logs for the last 30 days from like every Alexa on the planet and download it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So nothing is secure. Like if you have stuff in a Dropbox or a OneDrive or anything like that with 2-factor authentication on it, you can never make the assumption that that's going to be safe.
Yep. I still want to get a YubiKey.
Yeah, YubiKey is probably one of the better security mechanisms for sure.
I think that'd be I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
Also, you can't delete anything. That's the other thing people don't understand.
Oh,
if you delete something off OneDrive or you delete something off a website or you delete an account, nothing is ever deleted because deleting fragments data in databases. You just set a flag that says don't show me this data anymore.
Yeah,
it's just a pointer.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to wrap up, sir?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to say everybody should go check out my sponsor today. Timbirion is a VTuber, looks like. I cannot vouch for the content itself, but the person who wanted to buy the spot seemed pretty straightforward, pretty cool person. That looks like they do like a 3D furry kind of weird talk show. There's like you can see in the ad here that they have different kinds of talk shows that they do, I think, with a buddy of theirs. Here, hang on, let me pull up the tweet how they described themselves, because the text may not have read all the way through. Play stupid games and win stupid prizes in Timbirion's Dumpster Fire. Guests choose from 7 unique improv shows to run 5 nights a week, and every night ends with Abusement Park, a filthy, humiliating talk show where you learn way too much about your friends. Beware the finger. At twitch.tv/Timbirion. Well, I want to apologize a little bit if Timbirion is watching, or the person who bought the ad spot. I know this is coming a little late. I skipped one. I think the original week that you had bought, we skipped, or something happened and we skipped it, and then I was at PDX land. This has been a couple weeks coming. I apologize for the delay, but go visit Timbirion, check it out. Actually, this might be up Pup Shepherd's alley. Actually,
yeah, I was just going to say
the furry thing might be these guys. But yeah, go check it out. They seem pretty cool. If it might, yeah, right. And that's the one actually that I kind of want to look. It looks actually pretty. The production value looks pretty good. So I'm actually interested in the Judge Booty thing. That might actually be funny. But yeah, if this might seem up your alley, check it out. Thanks to Vic San was their Twitter handle. Go check out Timbirion.
Yeah, this looks interesting. I mean, this definitely looks like it'd be a Pup Shepherd's alley for sure. So
that's right. He said it was a VR chat like talk show.
Yeah, if we got any furries in the audience, you'd probably enjoy that to some level. So go check it out.
Even if you're not a big furry thing, it does look like it might actually be kind of funny. I'm gonna check it out myself.
Oh no, I'm definitely watching it. Because
this looks funny. So.
It does look funny. So check it out, guys.
Right on. Thank you to Timbirion and Vic, who
thank you for paying my co-host, because he's too poor doing this. He needs more money, guys. Come on,
serious business.
Pay my guy.
Yeah. Dubs. Just as another shout out, I am legit. I just got to figure a day and time, but I have builds to do now. I have a lot of fucking computer projects I need to finish and fix. So look forward to that soon. Follow my social media and stuff. Twitter mostly is where I'll probably put it out there when I'm really for reals. He's going to do it, but Instagram too. And so probably.
Dude, I'm excited to see you building stuff, man. This is gonna be good.
I might start this evening, maybe, depending on what else I got going on. But definitely soon, like next week for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah, throw it up on the Twitch, man. Let me know. Hit me up on my cell phone if I'm not online. Okay, and let me know, because I'll poke my head in and moderate and mess around in chat while you're building something, because I think that'd be a lot of fun. And as for the rest of you guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I want to thank all of our super chatters this week. You guys are absolutely epic and awesome. Geez, we had me tipped $53. Like half of what we got in super chats today came from the one dude.
Oh wow! Thanks.
So thank you so much, dude. We appreciate it.
We gotta actually, make some stickers or something we can send out to some people, or something cheap and easy that we can for the support. I think it would be fun. No. Something cheap, just something cheap that we can knock out. Because I think I got like 100 cheap stickers for like $4 one time or something like that. We could do something something nice to send to people.
Speaking of something nice, I still have some funds in the Cash App account that I've been using to help people that really need it. So if you guys know anybody that has a Cash App account, and I do investigate these things, so if your bots or your account just enters giveaways and stuff, you're not going to get it. But if you're somebody who follows me over on Twitter and has followed me, and you want to nominate somebody that you think could use like $5, like I'm just doing these little micro transactions, buy somebody a coffee or something. As long as the money holds out in this account, I'm going to keep giving people that need it a little bit of money here and there. So just throw your Cash App at me over on Twitter, and nominate whoever you think could use the $5. Tell me a little bit about them, tag them, and I'll pick as many as I can and help them out. But once the money's gone, it's gone, and I got to wait until it gets replenished somehow. But I've really been enjoying doing it because, man, it has really helped the morale of like so many people. Because it's a low enough amount of money that you don't have all these bots and stuff constantly like trying to grab it and everything like that. It's like not worth their time, but it's like targeted for people where it's like $5 makes a difference. Like a gallon of gas or a coffee in the morning or something. It's like that, that changes your day. And it's like, so I'm not targeting rich people like, oh, $5, go to hell. Like I want those people to stay away. I just want to help people that actually can use like $5.
Yeah.
So and you can just come over on Twitter at Barnacules over there. All the links are in the video description as usual. And we will see you guys again next week. Same bad time, same bad place, 11 a.m. Pacific here on YouTube, Barnacules 1. And all of the links for our individual Twitch streams, including AuxxZillary's build stream that might happen tonight. But if not, it'll happen sometime this week,
soon.
Probably.
Yeah, very soon.
So go check his links. Make sure you're following him over on Twitch so you get a notification. Also, before you guys leave, make sure you click the notification, click the bell, and say all notifications, because every week I get flooded with people. Even right now, I'm still getting people that are messaging me on Twitter and stuff going, oh, I didn't get a notification. So notifications aren't going out to that many people. That's why, you know, I have 800 and some odd thousand followers and we get like 300 viewers because it only sends out that many notifications.
Hey, Google, remind me every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific about Tech Talk. Just do that, and then you will be reminded.
There you go. And then you'll know. All right, guys, take it easy. We love your faces, and we'll see you next time.